Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, when I say this is for your consideration, we're not up against any deadline. If you want additional time to mull this over, have future discussions about it, that's fine. Not going to be an issue at all. Just wanted to get this before you so you have an opportunity to consider that. And before I say anything else, I want to tell you that no one is more nostalgic about newspapers than me. My very first job, I worked for the Kansas City Star when I was 16 years old. Newspapers have always been near and dear to me. So approaching you with this proposal to not have it as the official city newspaper, well, there's a reason for that. That's the whole newspaper. The reality is we're not getting the circulation and the notice that we need to our citizens. And we have a better means of doing that and at a lesser cost also. And as a practical matter, it's a convenience because we can post things immediately. We don't have to wait for the publication time. Like tonight, you have a Tuesday evening meeting. If we need to publish and the city website is our official city newspaper, it'll be done tomorrow. So there's a substantial benefit from that. There's no charge to do that. We've already got it at a city website. The website also allows folks to sign up and receive notice when things appear on the website, like new ordinances, resolutions, and if we need to correct or republish, we can do so immediately. So that's why I'm asking for that consideration. In your agenda packets, I included the list of items which, when we designate this as the official city newspaper, that can be published on our website. There are some that cannot because in the statute it says it must be published in a newspaper. So there's a second list of those which do not qualify. This is a charter ordinance. It's because the state statute does not apply uniformly to all cities. There are different provisions for the classes of cities with regards to publication. And so that's why the city of Hutchinson can charter out from under it. And by charter ordinance, if we pass an ordinance, there's a protest period. 61 days from the second publication of the charter ordinance. It must be published for 2 consecutive weeks. And after that time, if the council would approve that, the 61-day period expires, then there would be a resolution put before the governing body to approve and designate the city's website as the official city newspaper. There have been a number of cities who have done so. And I'll just stop right there for any questions you might have.
Do we have any idea how much this will save us as a city in our budget?
Well, probably several thousand.
Several thousand?
Yes.
The only problem, not a problem, just a question for you is how about pictures? I mean, you know, people do things in the city that the paper should cover, so how we can have a photographer or?
Now, I'm just talking about ordinances and resolutions that are for legal publications.
Oh, okay.
But I won't throw the public information officer under the bus. There are many things we can put on our website if you would just let us know.
Any questions?
No.
I can't think of anything that would be more effective. I'm a little, it's disappointing the situation we're in, and it's just the situation we're in where newsprint is not getting circulation, it's not getting out there. We have a number of people in our community who probably will never go to our website, never have been to our website, don't access the web on a regular basis. I don't know how to solve that problem.
Well, there is more people aware of our website because of See, Click, Fix, but do you have anything to add?
No, I think it's a good idea so we can get immediate information out to the public. I mean, I agree that the print's nice, but it's almost a thing of the past anymore. And I know some people still get it, but I just, you know, where it goes to now, I don't feel like we're getting serviced by that organization anyway. So I think we should move on to what we're looking at here.
Certainly. Does anybody from the audience have anything to add to this or a comment on this item?
Oh yeah, he stood up really quick.
Yeah. Hello, Michael.
Good evening, Council. My name is Michael Glenn, and I'm the publisher of the Hutchinson Tribune. Most of you have seen me in these council chambers reporting on topics that are important and impactful to the city we call home. I believe local journalism is important, and I hope you all would agree. The state of Kansas requires all cities to print legal notifications because they're important. Legislatures believe a local government should have to inform its residents when it wants to raise taxes, take property, change laws, rezone property, issue revenue bonds, and take many other actions. Hutchinson can't and shouldn't be any different from the vast, decisive majority of cities in our state. Council members, ask yourselves, if you wanted to prevent a city action, would it be easier for citizens to organize if it was in the newspaper or hidden on the city website? How would you even know about it? Exemption from that law allows a city to hide away such information, in many cases on a rarely visited corner of the internet with little fanfare. And for those following the city and various developments, there are likely plenty of public actions arising in the next few years that we can all be interested in. Currently, thousands of Hutchinson residents are exposed to the city's legal notices when it publishes them in the paper. They're already reading the paper, and the notices show up right in front of them. While the quantity and quantity of our flagship paper has declined in recent years, the city must continue printing in this publication to ensure public transparency, and those residents still taking the paper are informed. Many residents of our community do not use the internet frequently or would struggle finding information on the web. Should we make it more difficult for Hutchinson residents to get involved civically? The city should continue printing in the Hutchinson News or table the item to be discussed at a later time. The Tribune will never only be a website, so other future local newspapers in Hutchinson who care about the community should have the opportunity to bid, publish, and act like almost every other publication in Kansas. Council members, I encourage you to deny this resolution and to keep printing. It is a state statute that has been around for over a century, and tampering it with an online website will only hinder transparency, not boost it.
I appreciate your comments. You will eventually have a print paper? Is that what you're saying?
It's something that the Tribune has been considering. When I speak with subscribers or other people in the area, print is always something that people are interested in. And I will never take print for granted. I think it's really important, and yes, in the future, we do plan to have a weekly publication which would fit the guidelines and bylaws of state statute. But this is not directed for this to be a sales pitch. This is about public transparency and doing things the way we've always done them, and not in a way that's reluctant or neglectant of what our city is doing, but a way to be more transparent to those who still take the paper, to those people who still expect them to show up in the Hutchinson News, and with that, to not move it to a city website.
I understand what you're saying. I do, and I appreciate those comments. I'm curious how many other cities have had a charter ordinance changing this to a website.
I don't have a number. I can tell you I didn't have to draft the ordinances or any of the forms because they were already available in other cities. Dodge City for one. In Wichita, I'll just stop there. Wichita did something where they did both. Don't do that. Either do one or the other.
And I think it's also important to note that the city of Heston did something very similar. They wanted to cease printing in the Harvey County Now, which is the paper that they printed in, and wanted to move to a website. And the Harvey County Now also rallied against it, and what happened was they had to actually have a petition from Heston residents to override what the city was doing. In the city of Heston, 10% of registered voters in the city have to approve a petition for it to be considered, and they got that number. And so, I mean, whether we're in Heston or Hutchinson, people still care about newsprint. And let's face it, many people who still take the Hutchinson News probably won't have the best internet access or internet knowledge to access the city website. And while the circulation rates of the Hutch News are not 50,000 or 40,000 like they used to be, there are still thousands of people who take the paper. And one person taking the paper can end up being 2, 3, 4 people in a household reading that newspaper. And so to take this away from the Hutchinson News and put it on the city's website, I believe is a bad idea, just in my opinion.
Michael, thanks for your comments. Do you know how many residents currently subscribe to the Hutch News?
So I did check the Kansas Press Association statistics rate, and it is roughly 3,500 to my best knowledge.
Okay.
Which, once again, is not the greatest, but that's still slightly under 10%, assuming that the people taking the Hutch News live in the Hutchinson area or care about our community.
And that is actually receiving a paper copy.
That's circulation, yes. So circulation laws can be tricky, but for print, as in the Hutchinson News, that is the amount of people who are receiving the paper in one way or another.
In one way or another, because I receive the paper, but I look at it online. I have an online subscription.
No, these are print circulation.
These are printed?
Correct.
Okay.
Because, like, for example, my circulation, whether you base it off of our email list or our paid subscribers or our website visits, that's the difference between 100,000, 1,500, and 500. Mm-hmm. And so the Kansas Press Association, which is, like I said, what I base it off of, goes off print circulation, because that's what the KPA is looking at when it comes to that number.
Do you have a timeline of when you might, I know you're not here for sales pitch, do you have a timeline of when you might be printing a paper?
A year.
A year? I don't know, maybe it's something we should table it and maybe discuss later. I don't know. It's
Yeah, I would hate.
You bring some great points.
Yes, I would hate to do this right now. I'd like to talk to my citizens on this. This is a very important. I think it's very important. I'd like to table it to the next meeting, or maybe next month.
Well, I'd be okay with that, but I would like to know Class 1 cities in the state, how many are doing this and how many are not.
And just some more information on this
Yeah.
before we make a decision like this.
Yeah.
So I agree, 3,500 people is enough to justify looking at it.
For the benefit of the council, I'd be happy to get some more information. I'm unaware of who would represent the Hutchinson News, but I'd be happy to show some examples and some more numbers in a more formal presentation at that time.
Well, I would, just food for thought, for thinking, playing devil's advocate here a little bit. You don't have to pay to get on the website.
Correct.
You don't have to have a subscription. You don't have to wait 2 or 3 days for it to show up at your house. It's not going to show Hutchinson, Minnesota news. It's going to show Hutchinson, Kansas updates. I'm just throwing out there. The question is, what is the best form of media to get messages out to the widest part of the community?
Mhm.
I mean, it used to be before newspapers, I guess you had a town crier. And then it was probably, we have print now, let's print a newspaper. So what's the next thing? Is it still newspaper? Is it a hybrid? Is it just online? And how do you reach those people who aren't necessarily going online? Do you say something, do you put in something in the water bill to let them know that there's something going to be online, an announcement? I don't know. But we're not the only ones wrestling with this problem, so.
No, we're certainly not, and you brought up a good point with cost. That resonates with me. I know that we have tried to be more transparent with a nighttime meeting. It's going to cost the city about $15,000 a year to move these meetings to nighttime, and we're doing that. This seems like could be a cost savings move, but I'm fine with tabling it and having some more research and mulling it over, I suppose.
I'm fine with not taking 5 minutes and completely changing what we've done for the last few decades, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about on this.
Yeah, sometimes government moves very slow, but
I understand. I'm here a lot.
yeah.
He looks right at you when he says that, too.
Hey, my name is fast. Anyway, thank you, Michael. I think we'll table this for a bit, talk about it, more with staff and try to get more information.
Thank you, council, for your time.
You bet. Thank you, Michael. Next item, please.
Do you need a motion to table it?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Item 6A, public hearing for establishing Hutchinson Star Bond project list.
We need to make a
I move
motion
to open the public hearing.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Nagers?
Yes.
Ash?
Yes.
All right. Well, I have a presentation for you, council, And then towards the end, if there are public comments, then we'll have some time for folks to do that if you want that to happen. So Dave Stell, Director of Strategic Growth. Today we're holding a public hearing and asking Council to consider the necessary findings for establishment of a star bond district. So I want to be brief about the steps that we've taken to this point, what we've accomplished, which include approval of the resolution to hold a public hearing, which is happening tonight. We sent notice of public hearing to other government entities, property owners, and residents within the district. And we received approval from Lieutenant Governor David Tolan, the Secretary of Commerce, that the district is an eligible area. So today, this public hearing has two purposes. Consider the necessary findings for the establishment of a star bond district, and consider the ordinance establishing the star bond project. I want to be clear, we're just approving the geographical boundaries of the district, not actually the project and financing of the star bond project. So just a brief overview. I know you've seen this, but for folks in the audience who might not have seen this before or are wanting to learn, there are multiple areas identified for tourism and commercial development for this district. So generally, this is located on 17th Street. There's another section on 11th Street, and then one last section on Main Street. So I'll show you those districts. This is the North District, so it extends from Waldron and the new parcel, or the parcel that will include the hotel development, and it goes all the way to around Apple Lane on 17th Street. We also have the Cosmosphere District. This is the tourist attraction, where the tourist attraction is, right? So the Cosmosphere is a key point of this district, and that's what we hope brings that out of town tourism to our community, out of state specifically. And then lastly, the downtown district, and two projects are located within that district in the proposed project plan, which is the Landmark building. So there's some redevelopment, as you know, for residential on the top floors of the Landmark. The bottom floor of the Landmark is considered part of this project as an amenity, right? So the plans are from the developer to have that as a commercial space. And then also Memorial Hall. So we intend for some dollars to go to the redevelopment of Memorial Hall. I've showed you this video before, but because there are folks in the audience here who might be interested in learning what a star bond is, I'm going to show it again. So please forgive me for that, but I think it's important for people to kind of hear this explained in a better way than I can.
Here are some frequently asked questions regarding the Kansas Star Bonds program. Sales tax and revenue bonds, more commonly known as star bonds, were established by the Kansas legislature in 1999 as a financial tool for cities and counties to aid in the development of major commercial, entertainment, and tourism areas for attractions. Bonds are a financial tool used by municipalities to help raise capital for major projects. The bonds are purchased by private investors, allowing the municipality to raise needed funds without increasing the taxes of its citizens. As the Star Bond project attracts new visitors and generates sales, the tax revenue generated from the new visitors is used to pay off the bonds. You can contribute on the success of the program. Kansas residents have a chance to comment on proposed projects during public meetings. A city or county partners with a developer and identifies a potential Star Bond eligible project that can generate enough sales tax revenue to pay for the bonds. Star Bond financing must be less than 50% of the total project costs. Kansas Department of Commerce validates that there is enough capital investment, then determines whether the proposed district is Star Bond eligible and whether enough visitors will be attracted. Commerce then approves the project plan and determines the maximum amount of Star Bonds that can be issued. Smaller rural communities have lower investment thresholds and more flexibility than large city projects. The city or county provides a summary of community support and issues the bonds, creating a debt reserve fund for instances when the sales tax revenues are not high enough to make the payments. Investors can then purchase the bonds. The bonds must be paid off within 20 years. Taxpayers are never on the hook for the bond payments. To be considered for star bonds, a proposed project must be characterized as a statewide regional destination, include high-quality entertainment and tourism attractions, and improve the quality of life for the community and region. The project must contain unique features and increase out-of-state tourism, generate significant positive and diverse economic impacts, and be capable of sustainable development over time. Proposed projects' benefits must exceed public costs. A star bond district is a defined geographical area where the new sales tax revenue will be generated that pays off the bonds. Boundaries are drawn to include the attraction and adjacent revenue-generating businesses. Base revenue of the district is determined, and existing sales tax revenue continues to go to the state general fund. Sales tax revenue generated above and beyond the base revenue is tracked. The revenue generated from the new visitors is used to pay off the bonds. There are currently 16 star bond projects at various stages of completion and repayment throughout the state of Kansas. Star bonds are an important tool that allows local communities to attract new visitors and new revenues to Kansas, while improving the local quality of life for Kansas residents. For more information about the Star Bonds program, visit kansascommerce.gov. Here's some free.
A brief overview. Water's star bonds. Star bonds are a financial tool authorized by the state of Kansas that allows cities to use future sales tax revenue to fund major development. Star bonds are not backed by the full faith and credit of the city. They're special obligation bonds and are backed solely by the incremental sales tax generated within the district. Again, we want to be clear about the process of this and how it isn't actually, I think sometimes when we hear sales tax, we think that there's an increase in sales tax. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is using the increment, so what is generated after this development to fund some of this project. The Department of Commerce allows for these bonds to be used, or for these funds to be used as bonds to pay for these projects. So I want to give you an overview of those projects. One of those is the Cosmosphere project. I think the key project of this development includes the expansion and remodel of the facilities within the Cosmosphere. Some of that is the facade of the building, but really enhancing the ability for the Cosmosphere to attract more out-of-state visitors through their camps and improving their exhibition areas within the facility. We also have Memorial Hall modernization, so that includes the HVAC and all other amenities that can help the Memorial Hall be used year-round. And then lastly, the $14 million total investment to the landmark. Part of that will be star bonds to help redevelop the bottom floor. So I'll let Dominic step in here, our bond counsel from Gilmore and Bell, because I imagine you'll have some questions about what's next. But after, if you were to approve today's resolution, then we'll start negotiating a project plan, working with our partners on making sure we have something solid to present to you, figuring out the financing of these projects. Then the state would still have to approve that. And then there are several processes after that. But Dominic, he'll fill some holes in the information that I provided for you.
Thank you, Dave. Dominic Eck with Gilmore and Bell, special counsel for this issue. Yes, as Dave said, the first step is to set the boundaries of the district. That also sets those base sales numbers above which that increment is captured and redirected to pay for any future star bond issuance. If that were to be approved tonight, following consideration of the ordinance, then there would be two things that would start. It would be the project plan development and drafting. We'd also work with the Department of Commerce to go to what is called the feasibility study for the project, to where they take a deeper dive. They've done a preliminary visitation study. They do kind of a high-level study at first to say, okay, does this look like a project that could possibly qualify for star bonds? And then after a district is created, then they go a little deeper into what's called a feasibility study, and they look a little bit more into the financials and, okay, how many sales tax dollars do we think will be generated? what are we looking at from a star bond sizing? What are we looking at for a star bond allocation of proceeds? So that process would occur next when that feasibility study is completed and that project plan is drafted and completed and negotiated. Then we would be back again. We'd have a very similar process to what we are ending right now, with a resolution to call for another public hearing, notice that would go out, and then hold another public hearing for that project plan piece. Finally, if we, after we take that step, then we would get to the point of looking at bond issuance and bond timing. And that's going to be driven in part by when new developments and revenues come online to make sure we have a revenue stream to repay those bonds. So step one would be completed with tonight's action. Then we move on to step two of the project plan, and then the final step would be the actual issuance of bonds and disbursement of the monies. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have either now or following public comment.
Any questions?
Yes, sir. So there's a number of star bond projects going on. Have they all been either successful or on the path to be successful, or have any of them stumbled?
Yeah, the majority of them have, the vast majority have been on the path to successful. I guess that kind of depends a little bit on what you count for success.
If they hit the 20-year mark.
Well, if you mean repayment of the bonds themselves, yes, I think there may be one that has run into difficulties. If you're talking about visitation numbers and things of that nature, that's a separate metric. And, you know, there was a legislative post audit that kind of addressed that and whether various different projects were meeting the legislative visitation intent. But from a repayment perspective, there's been one that has run into difficulties. The rest have been on the track to success. And when you're looking at star bond issuance, you know, they have to get sold to investors, and these investors are looking to make sure they get their money back. And so the underwriters are running analyses, the investors are running analyses. People are really taking a hard look before they put their money out there on the bonds to make sure that there is going to be that revenue stream, and so they don't, you know, get out over their skis and in a position where the bonds would not pay off.
And for the investors, like purchasing any other municipal bond on their end?
That's right.
Same benefits? Okay.
That's right. When they're purchasing these bonds, they would be federally tax exempt for the most part. That can depend a little bit on the particulars of each deal, but typically federally and state tax exemption as well.
We've had some success with star bonds in the past.
Yes, the city of Hutchinson has had a successful star bond that was utilized for the Stratic project and paid off in advance of the maturity date.
Do you know how far in advance? I don't remember.
I think they paid off within 8 years or so, but I don't have that off the top of my head. I looked at it and then I looked at something else.
I've looked at it too, and I'm asking because I don't remember. Do you remember, Mr. Kerr?
I think they raised your bonds and they paid off the
Okay. So, ahead of schedule. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that there's so many checks and balances in this process that we're not going to be approved, or the bonds won't get sold if it's not workable. So
there are many parties involved. Yes, you have the city. You also have a development team. You've got Kansas Department of Commerce that has to sign off on each step along the way. They have to sign off on the district creation. They have to sign off on the project plan. They have to sign off on the bond issuance and those numbers. And then, yes, if the bonds are publicly sold, then you have an underwriter that's involved. You've got potential bidders that are doing their own due diligence to make sure that the project is feasible.
Could you speak a little bit to which portions of the sales tax for every person in Hutchinson? Most of Hutchinson, we're paying 8.6%. That's a mixture of state, city, county.
Yeah.
Is it just the state portion that goes back to the state for the difference?
Good question. So the Star Bond program allows access to that state 6.5% in increment. That's why the Department of Commerce is involved, why they have to sign off as a partner, because the state is putting that money in. The state's going to look for local participation as well. And what that typically looks like is the city to pledge their local portion of incremental sales tax to repayment of those bonds as well. So the state's saying, we're not, if you're not going to put any of your money in, then why are you asking to put all of our money in? And so the local piece is typically a part of that as well. The county piece can be included if the county so chooses to allow for that to happen.
And how would that work if there's a change in the sales tax equation between the time the STAR bond is started? So if we change from 8.6 to 8.25, or however our sales tax adjusts for the city, how do we need to adjust for this in the STAR bond?
Yeah, so if we know if we know of a change that's coming, or if we know that there's a sales tax that sunsets in a certain time period, then that's all built into the documents and the calculation. If there were to be a new sales tax that would go into effect that would not be pledged to some other source, it would potentially be possible to add that to the revenue stream. But what we're going to sell bonds on, what you sell bonds at the beginning, is what we know today and what is available to be pledged today. And so we would look at, what do we have today that doesn't have a sunset during the period, or if it does, building that in, and that's what we would peg as the incremental revenues available.
And how does that work with the CID if we were to put a CID in?
If a CID is put into place for the project, and that can be included as another revenue source that is pledged to repayment of the bonds. If it is not included up front as a revenue source that's pledged to repayment of the bonds, you can put a CID on it and then use the CID for other sources. So there are STAR bond projects where there are CIDs in place, but those CID revenues are not going to repay STAR bonds. They're being used to pay for other portions of the project.
Okay. I'm done asking questions.
Anybody else?
No, he answered all mine too. Yes.
Nope.
All right, anybody from the audience? This is a public hearing. This is why we have these things. We do want to hear from the public on thoughts, concerns, questions. Please come to the microphone, all the way up there. Well,
You're probably going to correct me on a lot of stuff. This is my first time here. I don't know what you guys have already said.
yeah, if you would just come up and state your name and what city you're from.
Sorry. I'm from Hutchinson. My name is Nicholas Taylor.
Okay.
Thanks. I just have a quick question. Well, we're taking money from sales tax, and a portion of that is going to go back to repay the bonds. Isn't that already allocated somewhere else?
The increase.
So we're increasing sales tax?
No.
No.
The increase after the projects happen.
Uh-huh.
The idea is more people will use the stores, the hotel,
Right.
the Cosmosphere, whatever they pay sales tax on. The part that is increased, the actual increased sales tax collections, it will not affect our sales tax rate.
We're just going to allocate a different portion of what is already being paid?
So if this district, let's say, generates in 2024 $1 million worth of sales tax, and then after the projects are done, it generates 1.5 million. Just that 500,000, just the difference goes to pay off the bonds. So no difference in what's going to the community in regards to sales tax revenue.
Okay. I think it's probably over my head. You probably have a better understanding. I hope I'm not wasting your time.
You're not.
No, you're certainly
You're
not.
probably one of 30,000
I
people
would
who
have
have the
put a
same
collared
question.
shirt on if I knew I had to come to the podium. The other thing are these guys are from Gregory or Bell and
Gilmore and Bell.
Gilmore
so
Bell.
they're private, like a law firm, something like that.
Bond attorneys.
Bond attorneys.
Wichita, I believe, is where the office is.
Can we do the same thing publicly without going through a private organization? Because they're not doing this for charity. They're getting something. So can we do the same type of thing ourselves and have it go back to like the community instead of just through a private people?
The actual forming of the bond and going through the legalities of it. I'm not sure Paul has the shoulders to be able to handle that on his own.
And I can answer that question because I've
You're going to
always...
explain it to me, I'm not going to understand. It's
That's
just
all,
something you get you guys
that's all right.
thinking. Okay.
I can tell you, and I've advised the council many times on this, never, ever take bond work in-house because the liability associated with it is enormous. That fella standing back behind you over there has malpractice insurance that you cannot imagine. And so that's not a liability we ever want to bring to the city.
Okay.
And you never, ever dabble in bonds.
Okay. All right. Well, that's. Well, I'm skeptical when these guys are probably smarter than all of us. They come to us with a proposal of, hey, I got a vacuum to sell you, and they're like, they just sounds like a sales pitch that we don't want to get ourselves into.
This was driven by a lot of community leaders that live here and pay taxes here that want to see these projects happen.
Okay. Just thoughts.
Those people asked the state for this bond, for this Star Bond District, and for these monies to come back. We asked because we feel like it's good for our community.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions.
You
This is my
bet.
first meeting. I'm sorry.
Hey, no, please come
No
back.
worries. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate your involvement.
I should mention, we also have some of the development team members, so if you'd be interested in hearing from them, they probably would be open and welcome to the opportunity of speaking.
Very good.
And they're lining up.
Yes, I see that.
I really don't have much to say, Council. I just want to say thank you. This project of the Downtown Master Plan started about 4 years ago, and the partners have been great. Deborah from the Chamber could not be here tonight, but she's been instrumental. So is the Community Foundation and everybody else that kind of brainstormed this idea with me after Dad passed away, and super excited for the things it's going to do. I've been a lifelong lover of the Cosmosphere, and I think it's really exciting that it's going to attract more people here, and it's going to provide more STEM education to the children from states friendly. So, and your city staff has been amazing, and all of them. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate you investing in our community.
Thank you. Any questions for? I don't have the malpractice.
I guess I would ask, what are your plans for the downstairs of the landmark?
It will have 4 different commercial spaces, hopefully to get a restaurant in the front space to showcase on Main Street, and then 2 retail spaces just to the west of the lobby. And then my husband's dream is to put a speakeasy in the back if we could make it work and find somebody to run it for us.
Very good. That's exciting.
Yeah, so should bring a lot more traffic downtown, and I'm very excited about Memorial Hall because I used to have dance recitals in there when it was 90 degrees in May, and the Chamber has a long list. I was surprised of the long list of, I know the Cosmosphere leads this, but the long list of things that they can use that for to bring people into town is way exceeded my expectations. So
Well,
I think that will be a great part of the project as
I
well.
would agree with that. You know, the voters voted several years ago to keep that building. And so if we're going to keep it, we need to take care of it. And it is unique in that it's a 2,500 seat auditorium, which fits a very specific need that a use that we can't provide here in Hutchinson. So,
And we just returned from Europe, and the number of buildings they've preserved over there and the architecture and the history that they have, it just made me even more passionate about all 3 of these projects, because we're going to, on 2 ends of Main Street, we're going to revitalize some historic buildings, and I think it's very important to preserve our history and keep that architecture on that heritage that we have here.
well, the older I get, the more I think that way. And thank you for your work.
You're older than I am.
Just by this much. Just by this much. Anybody else from the audience? Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Johnson. I'm from here. I've been gone for a while and then come back. So, and you know, from that angle, you get to see where Hutchinson was and where it's at right now. And I'm just kind of wondering if these projects, if they're stimulating new business, or it's just for business that's already pre-existing. So with new business, would that just be in support or something that could receive the funding for a Star Bond? If that
Well,
makes any
I think we've already determined which buildings,
okay.
we're gonna use those bonds for, but the idea is, with those building improvements come more people to spend more money
And so
in
we
more
can generate new
businesses.
business.
That's the idea. It's a tourism type tool.
But
that the
speaking on that, because this is something I was going to bring up. So we've had meetings in regards to some economic development ideas, things to kick off. We really want to kick that in gear. I say we all do. When these districts get set up, and once we start changing once we start banking that sales tax difference, it only benefits us to try to spur more growth and development in these districts and outside these districts too. Anything we can do to help with rules, regulations, low interest loans, anything we can do to help with the aspects we've discussed, we don't want to wait on that. IR or NRP program, anything like that, because it just helps people develop. If you get someone that goes from zero revenue and they just start up and they go, any kind of revenue they get, all that sales tax goes towards paying off the bond.
So if the new business generated based on the improvements of, say, the Cosmosphere, and it supports a new business, so all of the tax revenue, that increase that it receives, it pays into to pay that bond back.
Correct, if it's in the district.
Okay.
So it's mutually beneficial for our community to try to spur more growth within those districts, because it pays off the bond faster.
Yeah, yes, and the last question I have is I know that Reno County is I think the #1 county in this state in the transference of wealth in this year. So I'm just kind of wondering if that's going to, if that affects what the plans are, or why we're spurring this on at this moment, or.
I don't think that wasn't part of the matrix from why this decision was made.
Okay.
But we'll take the transfer.
Right. It's just, the concern, I think, is from what I've talked to from most people is that the concern is keeping that money in house, without letting it walk away. So that's kind of what I was kind of addressing. So thank you very much, and that's all I have for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Anybody else have any comments tonight? Seeing none, how about a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close. I second it.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Biggers?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. How about a motion to approve an ordinance setting forth the Star Bond?
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance establishing the Hutchinson Star Bond Project District and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Biggers?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. Next item?
Item 7A, an update of structure determined to be unsafe and dangerous, the Atrium Hotel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Matt Williams, Director of Community Development. I'm here today to provide an update on the Atrium Hotel. As you know, on August 20th, 2024, Council passed a resolution finding the Atrium Hotel and Conference Center to be unsafe and dangerous and directed the structure to be repaired or removed. Council allowed the property owner 30 days to repair or demolish the structure, subject to a required cash bond in an amount sufficient to cover the costs of demolition by the city, currently estimated at $2 million. On September 11th, the property owner presented formal plans to the city on rehabilitation of the atrium. Plans detail how the building will be rehabbed into retail and self-storage uses. The property owner indicated that they would like to extend the time frame for repairing the building and would like the required cash bond to be lowered, although no specifics were provided. The property owner is here today, and we've got some slides here that they can walk through their plans, if that's all right.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for giving me one more chance to come before you. Last time, when I was talking about the hotel, you all had asked me if I had any plans in last time I was so unprepared because I just came to know a week before when I came to the city to talk to them about the hotel and what I want to do. That's when I came to know that it was on the agenda to be demolished and all the other issues that that it was on the city council, and I was asked to if I want to come back and talk to the city council, and that's why I came with a very preliminary, because I had less than a week to just even talk to the architects, and I came with a very preliminary plan. After I talked to you all and saw the seriousness, I did go back, sat with Norman and Patton, the architects in Dallas, and I sat with the design engineer who's here with me, and we set up plans. We came back to the hotel. We walked the hotel. We walked with the contractors and made many different options that the best use we could use the building for, and we also came and visited the city, and hopefully you all will give us time. At the same time, I'd like to invite my the design engineer who designed this plan, and if you all give us the time and approve it, then we are already ahead on the plans. We'll submit it to the city city planning commission, and we'll go through and make it whatever it's needed to be in the current code origination. So I'd like to invite Fred Gatella.
Good evening. My name is Fred Gatella, a civil engineer by profession. As far as we recently discussed the owner on regards to these existing buildings, we have made a preliminary investigation walkthrough from the perimeter going inside. It's really a lot of major buildings. So I sit down with the owner, what's going to be your plans? I think he came out from the existing guest rooms to change it into storage, and the atrium on the front building to change it into retail, commercial. So, if you can see the site plan there, the existing building, it's like a one building, and the proposed, we're trying to demolish on the middle to make it a two buildings separate, and the back where is the existing guest room, that's gonna be conversion to the proposed storage. Now on the front, we're gonna use that as a retail or commercial. And you can see also on the proposed storage, we are going to provide to enclosure steel fences around to that proposed storage to make sure that no one can access in that perimeter. And we are going to use the gate as a motorized gate, with the cards. Make sure that nobody can in and out easily for that one. And here's the floor plan proposed. On those existing guest room that we are going to convert into storage, we are proposing all exterior wall or existing, we're going to convert it into a roll-up door. Only the first floor. And including to this, if you can see on the loading and unloading, they have an existing rope structures. So we have to maintain on that one. And use as loading and unloading any car. Somebody wants to, bring their stuff there. So from the all exteriors, including to that area, we're using roll-up doors. And on the second floor to the third floor, second floor, we're gonna use as the same as the corridor, access to the conversion to the storage room. So that's the only one that we can use an access to the second floor. And we are also putting an elevator on that one to make sure that, a lot of staff they can bring easily to the second floor. And again, all those damages, windows, glass, damaged carpet, electrical wires, it's in the notes that we have. General demolitions, we have to provide and change accordingly. The only thing that we have to maintain is the main structures, for example, the load-bearing load, but it's still under the investigation to make sure that it's still workable. On the front of that proposed retail, we walked through on the exterior. According to my research, I think still workable except the inside partition. It really needs to be changed on that one. And I tried to take some pictures on the main structures for the roof. Still in good shape. If we found another still deteriorating, we have to change on that one. And basically, all existing exterior wall we're trying to to use for now, except those glasses. On the second floor, we have to close it. No more window glasses on that one. So here's the new elevations for these two buildings separately. You can see the rear elevations. On the first floor, it's already changed from window glasses to roll-up door for that conversion to storage room. And all second floor existing window glass, it should be closed as a solid wall. And if you can see also on the front elevation, we provide a storefront window glass for a new proposed retail on that area. And this is for the building sections that you can see. And this is the standard detail that we are going to use for the roll-up door. And this is our new face for the retails on the front building. So we have to repair or repaint. And look as what you can see right now, we need to provide the new faces for that one. So we are using that as a retail 1, retail 2, retail 3, retail 4. Again, on this, the last building for the storage, we have to provide steel fence again, and to make sure that nobody can exit except the those people who rent by using the card. And all surfaces on the parking space, we have to purchase and repair to make sure that everything is smooth and clear, not that nobody can see the grass growing in every parking spaces. And we have to provide a new landscaping for this one. I think that's, if you have any questions, I'm so happy to
Do you have any questions?
Were you planning on taking all the glass on the second floor out from the interior? Just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Do the exterior. Okay. And the loading unloading area, just to be clear, it's inside the building.
Inside the existing high roof.
Yeah.
But we have the steel gate also.
Will you have doors? Will it be climate controlled once you pull in?
Yes, there is.
And this area, as you see, it's going to be demolished completely, and a whole road for about 40 feet in length, so 26 feet of.
So there's no roof connecting the two buildings?
No, there's no.
They're completely separate.
It's a fire lane proposed for that one. Make sure that the fire truck can access just in case.
And just on your question on the bond, I talked to many banks. I talked to insurance companies. These days, it's almost impossible to get bond because they want you to put that much money aside to, to even insure a bond and have hefty fees. Since I'll be spending a lot of money in this project and right away, I would want like a small time from now to December to finish all the planning, to finish all the demolition, and close the parts, and then the next year, from January to December, to finish the whole project with the doors and with everything. At the same time, I also right now Quail Creek Bank is the lender on the project, and we have about $1.2 million that we owe. Instead of the bond, I would like to pay them off because I need to get a new lender into the picture, and to prove you all that I'm serious in this project, and I've done other projects. I'll bring the city council and the city manager, the staff, the paid off from Quail Creek Bank, the loan, and I'll be trying to get. I talked to the First National Bank here, Kurt Pfizer or something is a loan officer, so I'm trying to get the bank loan also locally for around $4 million to finish this project. And if for any reason, since the city has a lot of things going on, if you all can put this area in any of those TIF or CID or star bonds, it'll be great because surely this is going to be a good income property in the near future.
Well, I can tell you, I'm not interested in you doing anything without a bond. A bond that you forfeit if you don't do it. I'm just curious, have you paid your $4,000 in back fees? I know you left our meeting kind of in a huff last time, and you said you could write a check for that. Have you done that?
I didn't, because I'm waiting for the invoice, but I came back to the city and I didn't talk, haven't talked about it, but I can do that right now. It means last time, obviously, we had a tough conversation where, but you can see I did go back and spend money to make this work.
So, I would imagine you're thinking about, where we sit and what we look at in our community. What are you going to do to assure us that right now it's a public hazard for our community right now, and there's been 5 years to do something like this. I encourage you to do what you can with your property, but it's got to be secure, safe, and not a burden on our community. what would be your first step, and how soon could you do that step?
The first step will be, if you all give us the time, the first step will be getting a fence to the complete property, cleaning up, taking out all the shrubs, cleaning up the parking lot, and securing the building for sure. I'm sorry, you all have seen the last 5 years. Last time I told you the reasons. I had thought that the city showed interest in buying and other things going on, and that's why as things fell down and it took years for things to fall apart, I just kept waiting, and that's why I never showed up or did anything with it. But when I started to decide, and when I came to the city and brought my proposal of wanting to do something like this, that's when I even came to know that you all have a city council meeting to get the building condemned. So I didn't even have just about 1 week to come back and talk to you all last time.
So you've had 5 years, and then you showed up, and then you have 1 week. So if you don't show up at that time, how many more years does this go on? I mean, how many more years do you just wait to do something about it?
Again, I want to let you know that in the 5 years I was not just sitting.
What were you doing? Because, I mean, like you said, you had emails between previous city managers that you said you were going to send to us. Enrico, did you get any of those emails, or did you guys receive any of those? I mean, you said you were going to bring us information, which you should have had, and you did not.
But the city attorney was the same. You all already have the whole city records about that. This time I'm here to, show a good faith that I'm willing to do it. The last 4 or 5 years, what happened is the city was going to buy it, and the city was going to construct, have different companies bid and do it. Where, when I put the bid, it was only for the outside people, and obviously I lost faith in the city, because I kept waiting and waiting, and and the whole time I kept paying my mortgage and everything. I mean, I had more than a $2 million mortgage 5 years back when I left when I walked out of the project, when I closed the project. But I closed the project because we already had a conversation with the city, and it's and that faith has lost. And now that I'm willing to do the project, if you'll give me the permission to do it, we'll move right away, and I'll start the project right away.
So one more question. You've went to somebody and you've got some prints. What else have you done in 30 days? Well, I mean, we're almost to 30 days. What have you done else towards this project? To show us that you're actually making an effort to do something. Anything besides just some blueprints, or?
Yeah, the blueprints. I had contractors come and walk, because I had the engineers come to, show what areas. And, I forgot the name, from Kansas City. The demolition contractors came, and they did all the measurements to see exactly. He was with them to see what are the areas they can demolish and still keep it as a safe building.
I'd have thought my first order of business would be to secure the location, maybe with some fence or something as well. Which, I mean, I don't know. It's just very unsafe structure for our community, and it's just, I don't know. It's been 5 years, and I don't know.
I'm very concerned about.
Can I add the answer in regards to the priority to make sure that it's gonna be happening right away? So as far as my experience, I just advise the owner, that we've been through from different projects the same like this. So of course we have concern about the neighborhood. So I told him, like, again, we are going to submit the plans in the civil drawings to have a grading permit to make sure that we can start right away to provide the fences and repair the parking areas. And submitting on the plans, we're giving you an assurance, I'm sure that the owner is going to continue that one because we are providing more designs on the building so that we can submit right away. And it's a good thing that he had almost done in one of the Oklahoma projects, so I'm sure that these guys, he's gonna bring it in here. So I'm asking a request. I know it's not easy to provide as-built land like this. I can provide the grading plans or permission or to have a permit so that we can start fencing and then repairing the parking and driveway. And then probably before the end of the October, I can submit the whole plans for the building. And hopefully I can help to the owner to continue the
Well, I hear a lot of hopefully, and that we don't have financing, we can't afford a bond to follow through, to give us some assurances. I mean, I have zero assurances that this will even happen. That's how I feel. Mr. Garza, do you have any comments?
Yeah, we have a lot of pressure from the citizens. This project's been going on for 5 years. And it's not only us you have to answer to, you have to answer to the citizens of Hutchinson that they've been seeing this project. We represent a lot of people, and we have to understand that they're the ones that tell us we need to do something about this. And I think we gave you 5 years to do something about it. Just like Councilman asked you, what have you done? And we don't have any trust. And the citizens of Hutchinson who we represent don't have any trust of what this is going to get done. We're put on a lot of pressure. Not pressure, we choose to be here, okay? But we have to do what's right for the citizens of Hutchinson. Enrico, do you have anything to say? I'd like to hear from you, sir.
I do. Thank you. Enrico Villegas, City Manager. As we entertain proposals, I would strongly advise against entertaining any proposal that does not include the full amount of the bond. So the bond is for the $2 million, and that is for the costs of the abatement of the asbestos, but also for the demolition of the facility. So for those in attendance that are unaware, the bond is in the amount that if the owner, for whatever reason, cannot finish this project and walks away, we will use that bond to level the building. So out of anything, I strongly advise that we do not move forward with anything until we have at least that full amount of the bond. So I will stand for any questions that you may have.
The bond is what, $1 million?
$2 million.
$2 million.
And would there be a time limit on the bond? I mean, I know that we have performance bonds when we build roads and those kinds of things. But I mean, he's already said, can you get a $2 million bond for us?
You know, I've talked to the maximum in such projects will be 999,000. Is what, you know, from the insurance company that I've talked to. That's the maximum they'll do for a project like this.
Is that based on what the end facility would look like? I mean, because if it's a $4 million facility and you're asking to bond $2 million, I'm asking, is that what's the disconnect on why it's limited to $999,000?
The most insurance companies have stopped making any bonds larger than that. I guess, you know, the costs have gone up and many of the insurance companies have just stopped issuing such bonds. And the one that answered us, that was the most, you know, with real high fees, that was the most they agreed to.
How is this different than a bond that I would use for constructing a new building on new? Because I bond larger than $999,000 projects. And it's usually based on the end project and your past performance and what
The
you have
last
for
few,
assets.
The insurance companies that I contacted, because this is a old project, if it is a brand new project, then it's different. But this is a old project and it's been sitting for a while, and those must be the reasons. And the city council keeps saying you have had 5 years, but I had no notices for 5 years from the city council to do anything. When I came here and I called the city board, that's when, you all started the process, according to the paperwork, you all started the process on June or July, and you put 30 days for the hearing and gave me another 30 days to finish everything. That's very unreasonable timelines that you all put. You cannot even move anything in 30 days. And then you're asking me, how much I achieved in 30 days. I mean, there's nowhere, first of all, the city is, you cannot just put on a business owner, you have to pay $2 million bond, we'll just take it up and demolish your building. First of all, that's illegal. I don't know what legality you'll have to do that. And then putting those pressures, you're not even, if you said, okay, I want the whole building fenced up, cleaned up, trees cleaned, and I'm giving you 60 days or 90 days, it makes sense. You go one period of the other. But to just tell me in 30 days you're going to do all the repairs, which the city made me close it because you all were going to buy this property. You all were going to do the deal. You all were going to make others. I put RFPs. You all put out RFPs. I submitted the RFPs. You all did not take it to me. So you can't just blame it all. Oh, you're the owner and it's all. The city has to take part because you all had a contract to oblige to finish, to pay me $1.6 million for the project because you all were going to do it. You all made $24 million out of this project in the bond, which you all didn't give the property that was supposed to, which we were paying 3% to the deal. All these things you have, you give me 30 days to finish the whole building. You all don't even give me any time. You all don't give me any space. You all put $2 million ahead. If you want me to start working on this project, put the fence, put everything, I need to pay money to do all that, and you try to see some results. You have half the city looks worse than Atrium Hotel right there. And you're just talking about the Atrium Hotel. But if you all give me time, and if you all are ready to, give me some timelines to finish things, watch one timeline getting finished. If that's my request to you all, if you all can do that, and be reasonable.
I mean, you've been getting notices. Notices and notices.
That's not a single notice. That's not notice. What are you reading? You're the mayor. That is police reports. That's not notice. Those are fire calls.
Okay.
And you just cannot show paper just because the public is watching and say this is notice.
Well,
not one single of this is notice. Show me a real notice.
Would you like me to read?
Yes, because I have not got any notice anywhere.
2020.
You all know my house address.
What?
You all know my house address, and the city had made a deal with me to purchase the building. And you all reneged on the building because your city council keeps changing and because somebody else proposed to do a new building. What did I get from the city for at 2014 when I bought this, it was already depleted building. And I put money into it. Now you gave me, first time we are talking, you gave me 30 days, finish the project, demolish it, or, and even if you say me demolish it, I can go demolish it, right? But you don't even say me demolish it. You say put $2 million aside and then demolish it in 30 days. How does it make humanly possible sense? I mean, can you do that? Anybody can do that?
I'm not in the demolition business, but I am in the building ownership business, and I take care of my stuff, and I would never let my buildings fall apart like that. That's just me.
That's just you me. Because you didn't have a project. I I was running the project, I was putting money in the project, and the city made an offer to buy the building. This old city council made an offer to buy the building so that they can put another new hotel there. At that point, I closed the hotel and I walked away because I'm hoping that in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, your contract will be done.
I don't know how that all went down. I've been sitting in this seat for almost 3 years. My understanding was, I think at one point we started to negotiate with you. You walked away and we never heard from you again.
That was 30 days back, never before
30
that.
days back?
Yes.
In February of '22, we had an offer on the table. I think it was at 1.6.
Yes.
And the asbestos was brought up during the environmental research, and it was determined it would be somewhere around $500,000 to get rid of the asbestos. So we put an offer back to you. We want to take $500,000 off our offer to make up for the asbestos. There was no response.
A single email, if I have received. Nobody sent me a single email. When I called the city, what is happening with the contract? That's when they said, "Oh, we got an asbestos report, and it'll cost this much." When I called back after more than a year, after that was done, at that point I said, "Can I demolish the building? Because I can. When a city does, and when city put out bids, you all make, you all get high bids. I'm a contractor myself, so I offered the old city manager, if I can demolish the building, and so you can say that 600,000, and I'll demolish for much cheaper than that, and you all can pay that $1 million." He said he'll bring it back to the city council. I was never invited. I was never asked to talk about it. That's why.
How'd that communication happen? Via email?
No, by a phone call.
You said you had emails, though, from other city managers, did you not?
I
You did
had
at the
a lot
last
of
meeting.
City, all the contracts, and them coming. The mayor had come to the hotel with the city manager and made a deal with me, and once the deal was done, I just, when I knew that you all are going to buy it, I walked away. But then things was not falling in place. You all had to put in the newspaper. Then that's when it came out. You all have to start new RFPs. When all this started to come up to place, it got 2 or 3 years before, and at that point, I allowed the city before they demolished. They did the asbestos report, and I was never given the report, or I was never sent or emailed. And then by the time I called back, John was no more the city manager. The new city manager, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. So I never met him, but I called, we talked over the phone, and he said he'll bring the proposal back to the city of letting me demolish the hotel so that, we won't have to spend as much, and you all pay me the whole 1.6 million, and I agreed to demolish the hotel. But then when I called him the next time, he said the city council did not agree with it because, and you all already started talking with the new owner on a new site. At that point, all communications was cut, and I didn't receive any calls. I didn't receive any communications after that.
So there's frustration. Obviously, there's frustration. Let me ask this. If this is your asset and it's got value, why isn't it being taken care of to maintain the value? Part one. Part two, if someone goes in there and gets hurt tomorrow morning, we're sitting here in a decision-making situation. I want to show that we are taking steps to secure the facility and make it safe. It's been very unsafe. Our community has taken on the burden of trying to secure the facility. It sucks a lot of resources from us. And meanwhile, over the last 2-3 years, as a property owner, I'm taking care of my assets so it maintains value. It doesn't go. I'm sorry, I wouldn't pay as much for your building now as I would have 4 years ago.
Yeah, I've been going up the building. I have a person who drives around the building and goes back. Yes, I didn't go and do over and beyond other than paying my property taxes and paying the mortgage every month, because I was hoping that sooner or later you all will still make a deal with something, or somebody else will come, and you all will want to do something with that area. But when the only time I was convinced is last time when I saw the new hotel coming up, and when I read up on it where they got all the money to, because I was really thinking that they're going to still build demolish this and build a new hotel and use the convention space. And when the new hotel started coming up, that's when I decided, okay, I guess nothing is going to happen. I need to go back to the city and see if I can make this work in another way.
Well, you asked why we waited until July to look in there, or whenever it was, in June. We needed to prove what we thought we knew, and we did. That's why we went down this process, because there was no communication, no willingness to.
In June, when I came, when the flooring company wanted to walk the building, I came in, and I walked the hotel with the flooring company who was looking at the property. At that time, I saw the sprinkler water leaking, and that's when I called the fire marshal's department, and I said, hey, I'm not able to close the old sprinkler pipe. Can I have it shut down from the city? And the answer I got is, you're not even supposed to be in the building.
This was 4 or 5 years ago?
No, this was in June, in end of May or June, when I first started talking to some. That's when I came to the property after a long time.
There was water to the building?
Yes, there was. The sprinkler.
The fire line is not on a meter.
Okay, so
typically.
So it was leaking, and so I was, I called to see if they can shut it down in the main, because I couldn't find the main. At that point is when, again, when I called about that, things I opened up again, where I guess we are here. But I want to commit to you all, if you all give me some timelines and tell me what is to be done, the plans are here, the city is here, the manager is here. Tell me if I know that you all are looking at, you will look at this project and you all are going to do something about it, and let me go through the process. I'll start fencing it up from the end of this week, or in 2 weeks, whenever I can first get some temporary fence around it here. I'll start cleaning it up, just so that you all can see in good faith that I'll do it. But if you all are going to ask me things that I cannot humanly possibly bring it, then obviously you all can make your decisions what you want to. But I'm here to put my best foot forward, and if you all could wait for 5 years where I was not involved, let's wait for 2 months and see how much if you all give me permission, and see how much can change in the property.
Did you say for 5 years when you weren't involved?
Yes, since.
How were you not involved?
I was not involved because I was hoping the city is going to buy it, and
for 5 years?
Or 4 years, whatever that
or
is.
3 or?
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I?
Sure, just step up to the mic.
Again, to give you an assurance, I understand about the safety of the neighborhood. Again, the plans that we are doing right now to enclose the proposed storage is permanent fence. For that one, we have to start it. And on the front, we have to provide fence so that we can only people can inside, those who works for repairing. So everything's gonna be fenced, especially the surrounding for the proposed storage is gonna be installed permanently for that one.
I think my biggest sticky point is the bond. I mean, the assurance, the financial assurance that something's going to happen. I mean, I know best best plans, but coming to the table and saying, I am willing to put a $2 million bond on this, I'm going to put a temporary fence up at this week, I'm going to secure the building, I'm going to do these things, that's a huge deal.
If I put the bond is not going to agree. If you're going to ask me to put the $2 million aside, I can't do anything to this project.
So it's a $4 million project.
Yes.
Is there a way to do the $2 million bond until the building is secure and everything is cleaned up? And it is deemed to be a secure facility?
I can do $1 million. And I'm saying you, it won't cost you $2 million to demolish it. With all experiences, you know. But if I don't do this, I'll demolish it myself for you guys. You know, because you're going to demolish, you're going to take the city money, and you're going to demolish, and you're going to put a lien on the property, and we're going to fight about it. Rather let me do it, and let me fight about it, let me fix it, and if I don't do it, I'll demolish it and I'll sell the land.
Well, you know, I might be okay with $1 million bond if you're going to come in and demolish it in a timely fashion. I don't think this stuff here, this could take years, and you know, I feel like
I'll give the $1 million and put the bond. At least let me keep the main convention space area, and I'll demolish all the rooms, because this is still a great asset. It's a great, the whole building is a concrete building. This was built for $16 million in 20. Well, I mean, the city has all the convention space completely was built, you know, with solid, and it doesn't have anything that the other buildings has, because it's only like not even 15 years old.
Yeah, Joshua, I understand that, and I'm only speaking for me on what I might be agreeable to. There's 3 others here that would have to go along with that, but
If you do that, I'm ready to it. If you're going to say me, put $1 million bond and demolish the whole thing, then the land is not valued for me to do that. But if there is a building in it, and if I can fix the building up and make it to the new code, then it has some value to me to put the money aside. Otherwise, if I'm giving you $2 million and I'm not allowed to do anything with that property, then the land is worth, I don't even think you'll get $500,000.
Well, and my fear, and I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm trying to figure out what trust or assurance I can have, because I've looked at Hayes, I've looked at Salina. They've had to deal with the same issues. I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just saying there was a pile of a hotel, a pile of wood for a hotel that they finally had to force you to do something with after you demoed it. And so, you know, even if we left that part of the building, you know, what kind of disrepair will it stay in? I mean, I'm telling you, this is...
I put my best forward now. You're the city council. You have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
But I put, I gave you everything that I can do for it. More than that, I'll just wait and listen to whatever you all decide.
Enrico, what you think about $1 million?
Mayor and council, in terms of risk assessment, I would say that just having the full $2 million is the best assurance that we can have. As we look at the track record as part of the analysis, like what the mayor had stated, that this happened in Hayes, it's happening in Salina currently, that even projects where demolition had started, they didn't even finish. And so the city had to go in and abate the problem. And
That's
so
very wrong. Tell me that.
that I just think as
false information is not right.
That's it.
No city had to abate anything. If there was anything, I did it myself.
Finish your thought and then please rebut at the microphone and let us know, give us.
Sure. Go on.
No, that was totally false information that the city had to abate. Not one of my properties. No city had to abate. If I had to demolish, I demolished myself, and I took the problem. What you just said about Hayes having a pile of dirt is because city of Hayes couldn't take that dirt anywhere. The city could not. They could not take any concrete. I had to bring it all the way outside Salina and to Grape Bend. Each truck, I had to drive more than 150 miles to send that.
And
so it's not that no city did it. I did it. I paid for it.
Well, that was my point, though. It was left there, and somebody had to force you to do it.
Nobody had to force. When we demolished it, it was there, and because the city couldn't take that trash, we had to find places, and it took time to find Grape Bend to be able to take, and then outskirts of Salina, somebody had to take.
How long did it take?
In less than 6 months, we demolished the whole thing.
No, I mean as far as the debris sitting there to where it was cleaned off.
It was maybe 3 months at the most, because it took a lot of trucks going back and forth, 100 miles away from the city to take that debris. But again, you all can decide. But I just didn't want you all to think something that I didn't do.
Well, I apologize if that was misinformation. I just know that these other two cities have had similar issues, I guess.
And on Salina, it was the same thing, where there was a big bond of $25 million for people to build apartment, and it was supposed to be where the hotel project was, and it wasn't. I'm sorry, the COVID hit, and all these big buildings became of no use. But at the same time, right now, they have not given us these 30-day frames. They are going through our plans. They have referred us to the planning and building commission, and we are going through the plans. And if they agree to the plans, we'll be doing the same thing there.
Okay.
And the city had not asked me for a penny bond.
So to finish my thought, and if there were any particulars that where there may have been misinformation, in either event, it still took legislative power through those city councils to get something. And so that's where we're at today. And so just to finish my thought.
Does anybody from the audience have anything to say in reference to this matter? I certainly would want to open it up if somebody's here for this. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how you guys doing?
You're
Michael.
back.
Yes, yes. What comes to mind for me is that in the whole process, I didn't hear anything about taking accountability for how it got in such disrepair in the first place. And so I just don't know that there's any good faith left to deal with here. If he's making these promises now, as a member of this society, I would say that I haven't seen anything that give me comfort that thing would get done. I just haven't. And that's not based on your past or not based on this, that, and the other. It's just based that every time that there's a problem, it seems that city is the only thing that comes out of your mouth, and you're not taking accountability for what you've done. And if we see accountability, then now we can find responsibility. But until then, I just don't know if there's any good faith for the people to have here. And that's what I have.
Appreciate that. Anybody else have a thought?
Hello, Council. Cheryl Thompson. I remember the day that they closed it. I went to the facility and the doors were locked. And it's like he just walked away and left it. Now, what we've been suffering with in this community, we have needed a motel, a good motel, to house like the outside community or people for March Madness, for anything. We have to send them to other cities to board these people. And that goes for any type of event that we have here. So we needed that place. But the thing is, when I showed up that day, it was a winter day, if I remember right, and the doors were just locked. He just walked away, locked the doors, and left this community. It was our problem, and it has been for 5 years. And I just think it's time to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else have any comments?
Would you like some guidance, Council?
What?
Would you like some guidance?
Yeah, yes. Sure.
Okay, all right. I gave you a copy of the minutes from the August 20 meeting and also gave you a portion of the agenda packet when this was first heard. Kansas case law says that you have to consider all relevant factors. And at that time, you determined that the relevant factors were, and the easiest way to look at that is if you go to the memorandum that I've given you, it's the longer document, and you go to the third page, it talks about the description of the property and the problems with the property. And those were fully discussed. And that's really the issue now. What about those conditions? Because our ordinance says the resolution shall fix a reasonable time within which the repair or removal of such structure shall be commenced and shall require a cash bond sufficient to cover the cost of removal. Okay? And that's where we're at currently. Have these things been addressed? If there's additional time given, it requires a cash bond. And have these problems been addressed? Is there even a plan to address these problems? And I see the redevelopment project, but I don't really see the steps necessary to deal with the findings that the governing body has already made.
All right, council. What would you like to do?
I want to see the building torn down, properly cleaned up. And I would note that this is the exact, I pulled up you said the exact same things to City of Hayes 7-8 years ago. You're doing this with one notification to me about what you're planning to do. You've already tear down something. I know the law's here too, and you can't start with this, just one phone call, one letter to the owner. I mean, it's the same story over and over again.
Yeah, John, I actually was looking at the same article, and it's the same story we're hearing today and before.
I want to close this chapter on the hotel. I want to be done with the hotel standing there. I want to clear it off.
Okay, do we move forward as we were moving forward back, I believe, in late August? Do we leave that alone and then we hear from him on October 5th? And if he has a bond to tear the building down, then he can tear it down. If he does not, then we tear it down like we've talked about. How do you want to handle this?
That's what that's what I would like to see done.
Should be at the October 1st meeting.
October 1st?
October
Okay,
1st.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
misspoke.
And at that time, you can determine what's been done and whether or not a cash bond has been posted.
All right.
Regardless, and I know there's hard feelings with this, I really would encourage to put some security out there. Put a temporary fence out there, something around the building. I mean, if nothing else, no one needs to be going in and out of that building right now.
All right. We'll hear from you on the 1st then with a bond, or if you don't have one, we will move forward. That's pretty simple. So, Mary, next item, please.
G, consider approval of collective bargaining unit contracts 2025 and 2026 FOP, Lodge 27, 2024 SEIU, Local 513, HRCEC, and 2025 SEIU, Local 513.
Good evening, Council. Tom Sanders, Human Resources Director. I'm happy to be with you tonight to review 3 of the 4 collective bargaining agreements with our unions for 2025, and in the FOP's case, 2025 and 2026. With the FOP, former negotiations began on January 18th. And after 6 bargaining unit discussions with them, we had a tentative agreement by about mid-August, and which was then subsequently passed by their membership. I'll just hit the highlights of the changes for the current MOU. Under base pay administration, Section 1B outlines the process to move the police officers onto a new step system. And then 1C removes the 12% cap on new hires from other law enforcement agencies. So if they have prior law enforcement experience, we can have maybe a more robust lateral transfer program than what we currently have. Article 17, variable pay programs, we've made some changes there in terms of eligibility. Prior language had it the $1.25 per hour for the FTOs. That got changed to MPO, which is a broader scope of responsibilities, and really are kind of on an ongoing basis. Section 9 is a new section for K-9 officer pay, but it really just codifies what we've been doing for the last several years when we started the K-9 program. So again, not really a policy change, but just getting it in the contract to reflect what it is we do. Article 20, sick leave, is just cleanup. There's some old language there that references grandfathered employees that is no longer applicable. Under Article 25, which is other employee benefits and allowances, Section 3 covers uniform and equipment. And this is the uniform allowance, the clothing allowance for detectives hasn't been changed probably in 10 years, and that's being increased from 500 to 750. We are also changing the same amount for the annual maintenance allowance. That's going to 500 and to 750. We are going to go to a rolling 12-month basis, though, rather than a calendar year, because calendar year just gets messy with proration if people get transferred in middle of the year and so on and so forth. So after talking it through with them, that we really thought that was the most equitable thing to do. And then also under Section 6, use of city-owned vehicles, this new language provides greater clarity in terms of restrictions and limitations for those employees who take city vehicles home to their residents. And there's what we put in there is a 30-mile radius. Article 32, duration of agreement, that's been modified to reflect a multi-year contract, 2025 and 26. And it also references a new Appendix F, which is a whole section appendix on ground rules for contract negotiations. Appendix B shows the wage scales for both 2025 and 26 for the FOP group. And it also is a step system that has 2.5% between steps. The police officer scale is going to move up 6% next year. The top end is going to move up 2.1, and then this scale will move 2% in 2026. Sergeants will move up 3.35% next year, and then the top end of that's going up a little higher, 5.4. And the wage scale for them will also go up 2% in 2026. Appendix C has had kind of a rewrite that reflects a step system versus the performance-based system that we currently have. But the basic eligibility and performance requirements to be eligible for a step increase are basically the same. It's pretty much unchanged. Appendix F are the ground rules themselves, and again, those really help define the mutually agreed procedures, timelines, and behavioral expectations as we negotiate future contracts. And we basically have been following those for the last couple of years, but we just, as talking it through, we codified that and got it in the contract itself. So hopefully, it's something that can really help us going forward. And I think it has helped us in the last couple of years to actually work through negotiations. Be happy to answer any questions on the FOP contract, or we can move on to the other two, whatever your preference is.
Did it pass?
Yes, it's been ratified by the FOP. They seem to be very happy with it. They're very excited about a multi-year deal, which is, I'm not going to lie, I'm excited about that too. So,
and the other ones didn't agree to that.
Yeah, so the same offer for 2026 was offered to the two SEIU groups in the fire. Fire is in the process right now of voting. Last correspondence I had with the president, I think we should hear something next week or the week after in terms of whether it passed. But we definitely I think we definitely have a 1-year agreement for them, and they're contemplating the 2-year.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And before leaving FOP, would also like to thank Ricky Garcia, Chief Burley, the FOP negotiating team. I think, again, we started pretty far apart, but we got there, and I think it took a lot of hard work on both sides. So I just would like to make that acknowledgement and give them my thanks for everything that they helped us get accomplished. On the SEIU, and this is the big group, the SEIU big group. Our formal negotiations began with that group on February 23rd. After 4 formal bargaining sessions, we were able to get tentative agreement, which I think was passed the next week. And it's a 1-year agreement. Article 18, subsection C, is a strike through in the contract. It's basically refers to one-time pay adjustments that were made in 2023 and 24, so again, no longer applicable. Article 20 eliminates the callback provision that had it start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You might recall that being a bit of a controversial issue a couple of years ago. We've studied that with also our shift changes in terms of shift schedules and stuff. We really didn't think that was necessary anymore. So that was something the city offered, and the SEIU is very happy about that change. On Article 25, which is city designated holidays and is a specific section on those people that work those non-traditional work schedules, the SEIU had asked for a minimum of a guarantee of 32 hours of work during those weeks when we have a city designated holiday. We were happy to agree to that because and we're basically doing that now, but they just wanted that assurance. Article 42, the duration of agreement, again, it's been changed to reflect, just to update it to 2025. And then an Appendix F, which is, again, the ground rules, same ground rules that we agreed to with the FOP and the other bargaining units. The Appendix A covers the unit description, so that's the group of employees or job classifications that are covered by the agreement, as well as consolidates, I think we had a B before, was the pay ranges. We consolidated that into just one appendix. The wage scales for 2025 are going to go up 3%. And under Appendix C, which is the merit pay matrix, that's an overall 4.5% budget, which is up from 4.25% in 2024. And again, not to be too redundant, but Appendix F is the mutually agreed ground rules. They again cover the procedures and the timelines and behavioral expectations. Overall, this economic package increases our overall wage growth, base wage growth, that is, about 4.9% projected in 2025. Any questions on that one? Sorry if I'm speeding through, but I know you guys have had a long night already. So, moving on to the SEIU 911 Communications Group. We started negotiations with them on February 21st. We had 4 meetings and came to tentative agreement in mid-July. And the contract was ratified. We got word, I think, in mid-August. And then this is also just a 1-year agreement. In Article 4, there's some language in there that I think is actually Kevin that discovered it, that doesn't, when we looked at it, doesn't comply with Kansas Public Sector Labor Law statute. And that was language that was alluding to more or less strike language, which is not legal in Kansas if you're in the public sector under PIRA. So we struck that out. And that, again, that was a non-controversial issue with the union. They were totally good with that. We also provide some clarifying language related to rest and meal break periods. Again, no policy change, but just trying to make things clearer. Article 14 on wages, we did eliminate subsection D, which again referenced one-time base pay increases that happened in 2024. Article 16, again, no policy change here, but it was rewritten to hopefully make it better, easier to understand and administer the after-hours duty requirements for being on call and on-call pay, and callback pay as well. Uniforms, again, just really more on editing and proofing, correction. It referenced the old administrative services director, which used to be the 911 director, and we just changed that to a more generic management. And then the duration of agreement, again, was reflected to reflect 2025, and then the new Appendix C, which is the agreed upon ground rules. Appendix A is the pay ranges themselves, and next year, 2025, the bottom's gonna go up 5%, and the top's gonna remain unchanged. And then also, like the other larger SEIU group and broader city employees, the merit pool next year is going to be 4.5%, up from 4.25% this year. And then Appendix C is, again, those ground rules that I've talked about already. Overall, for this group, we expect the wage growth for 2025 to be 5%. So.
How are we doing there in dispatch as far as employees? We used to have a problem there. Has it gotten better?
Enrico and I were talking about that a week or two ago, and, it's kind of one of those things. I thought I'd never see the day. It's doing fantastic. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How about SEIU and Public Works? Is the employment doing better there?
Much better.
Good.
We still have pockets where we're struggling a little bit, but overall, much better. In fact, Angela had pinged me yesterday. I think she was, needing some data on, our overall staffing levels, and I'm happy to report that our staffing levels are not only better, back to where they were pre-COVID, but they're actually better. I honestly can't remember how long it's been since they've been as good as they currently are. We're about 92% of budgeted, which. I think during COVID, we were down to about 85% at times. So,
good.
Yeah. We, like everybody, we're still struggling to fill police officer positions. I feel really good about the package that we have here. I think it's going to put a base pay rate about 75th percentile of the market. So hopefully that will help. I think I know we already have hired a few, and looks like we have a pretty decent pipeline. Overall, our applicant flow, regardless of positions, really been better, significantly better. So, knock on a lot of wood. Hopefully that all continues. So, but all in all, pretty happy to I'm glad you asked the question because I think it's important for the public to know that
Yes.
we're doing much better. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we thank you for your work and all the other negotiators. I know it takes a lot to get to this point, so.
Yeah, and I have a lot of help. Kevin Irwin, Chief Burley, as I mentioned before. Enrico's been fantastic. Yeah, so it's a team effort for sure. Okay.
Well, good. Thanks, Tom. Anybody in the audience have any comments about that agenda item? I don't want to make people wait if they're here for that. So, anyway, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
A motion and a second to approve these contracts.
I motion that we approve all four contracts, right? Yeah.
Three.
Three contracts.
Hopefully a fourth soon.
We're waiting on fire, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll say.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Sir, could we please hold the public comment now? Normally it's at the beginning of the meeting. We've been waiting 2 hours.
Well,
Please?
the issue is we're paying people to be here that can leave.
Yes, sir, I understand.
We'll take a 5-minute recess and be back here at 7:35.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you and attached to the agenda packet is a policy for your consideration with how we handle sidewalk improvements going forward. So to keep the analysis as straightforward as possible, it really took an examination of our current policy and how we handle sidewalk improvements. So with the current policy that we have, there is a cost share component to that. Also a component to that is where citizens receive notice of violations. And furthermore, within the limitations of the current policy, there's no consideration for filling in sidewalk gaps. And so what I mean by that is if there's a run of sidewalk on a street, and then there may be 4 or 5 properties where there are no sidewalk, and then the sidewalk picks back up again. That's an example of a sidewalk gap. So one of the things that to really take into account is ADA. And so there were several, probably about a month and a half to 2 months ago, if my memory serves me correctly, there was a proclamation for the Americans with Disabilities Act. And within that proclamation, there were many things, but the key to that is to better promote accessibility, is to remove barriers to accessibility. And we can achieve the removal of barriers through accessibility through policy work. This would be an example of that, where through the purchasing power of the city, through a formal bidding process, the city could assume control of the removal and replacement of the sidewalk at no cost to the homeowners. So with that in mind, we can fill in gaps. We can repair long runs of sidewalk if it is indeed warranted. Through many benefits, and I think it does promote a better sense of being equitable, where through our current program, perhaps there are many in the community that couldn't afford to participate in the program if they wanted to. And so we're removing that obstacle for many of our residents. And so as part of this policy, how it would be used, the intention behind it would be to overlay it with our street maintenance program. And so where our street maintenance program goes, it's divvied up into zones. And so as it works its way around the city, the sidewalk program would follow it. In addition to that, we would bake into it also drainage improvements, so curb and gutter. We'd overlay our curb and gutter program with that, and also start removing and replacing or rehabilitating any storm sewer improvements if they're warranted as well. And so we will go through a lengthy process to inspect all of the hard infrastructure and then have that information put into our asset management system, so then we can make better decisions moving forward. But it also satisfies our MS4 permit, where we have to inspect so many storm sewers throughout the city in order to maintain our compliance. So there are many benefits to overlaying everything, but the general idea is that we can improve a neighborhood dramatically through improving our infrastructure. And so I felt that it was important to relay how this new program would fit into our existing program and what the intentions would be behind that. So that's the short of it. I would also stand for any questions. I have Justin here as well to kind of fill in other benefits to this program. So Justin, if you have anything, if not, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Wow, buddy. That's good news. Real good news. The only thing I have in my mind is, so let me get this straight. It'd go with our street project, right? All along. So we bid the sidewalk along with the street project? Is that what you're thinking?
Correct.
Okay. And so our bids will be a little bit more than they used to, right?
We're hoping that we can get better cost control that way, just as we increase the scope of our concrete. Hopefully that will drive down prices to make things more competitive, because then we'd be attracting many contractors as just the scope increases. So Justin, if you have anything.
Okay. Where you been? Huh?
You know, with this does come a cost.
Oh, I know that.
But we talked over and over and over about improving neighborhoods, and this is a great start to doing that. You know, I drove down West 11th, and I was thinking about tonight, that was this morning, and that project is a beautiful project.
Yeah.
All sidewalks, all concrete road, you know, should last us years and years. So hopefully we can start doing, when we do a road project, we do a little more for the reasons you said. I mean,
I do know that we do our street program, and we have that guy come on with the truck and he analyzes our streets, correct? So what happens if we have a street that's good, but the sidewalks are pretty, how are we gonna find out who's gonna be, you understand what I'm saying? How do we tie them together? Say the sidewalks is not the streets are good, but we need terrible work on our sidewalks. So how do you tie them together?
Yeah, so part of this project, so we have a 8-year rotation. So for like the 2026 location that we will chip seal. So beginning of 2026, we come in and do our say residential chip seal work. In 2025, that's where the process would start. And with our current program, we would go through and identify drainage repairs needed, and we have a certain amount of budget to apply to that. So that would just follow that same process. So when we're going through identifying any street maintenance that's performed by our street department prior to the chip seal, we'll be looking at the sidewalks then as well as the curb and gutter. So basically, we'll have a technician from engineering, like they normally do, go through the neighborhood, identify all the deficiencies, and then document it, estimate it, and then we take all those locations and we build the project from that. So this will just be the same process, just a little bit more time spent looking at the sidewalks that we didn't have the funding or the scope in the project to do before.
Real quick, and everybody knows that I'm a South End person. There. So when the South End going to be introduced to this?
2026.
2026.
Right there,
I got you. I seen it. It's done. It's done. Answer. Thank you.
I was thinking the same thing.
Thank you, sir. All right.
So we have tentatively at some point we were talking about reviewing code enforcement and stuff like that in regards to code violations. And one of the things that eats up sidewalks are people parking their cars on sidewalks off the driveway. If we are going to make investments in infrastructure like this, we also need to make efforts to maintain and educate the public on what our main, again, and this just astounds me, but a lot of people aren't aware of what their responsibilities are as a property owner, and what's an easement, and it's gone by the wayside for decades. The city will take care of it, but really it's on the property owner. And it's hard to change habits. But, I look at, if we're going to go replacing a lot of sidewalk in yards, I don't want to, it's going to be hard to not pay attention when people are parking trucks and working on the sidewalk as well in their yard. And so that needs to kind of go hand in hand. Education on what's allowed and what's not allowed, because we want to keep the sidewalks in good shape and make sure that the investment goes for a long time, especially if the city's doing the replacement. A lot of communities, it's on the property owner to do the replacement.
anything else?
No.
Do you have a motion and a second to adopt a new sidewalk program?
I motion that we adopt a new sidewalk program.
I'll second it.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Pass.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7D, consider recommendation to approve WSU PPMC strategic plan proposal.
Dave Stella, Director of Strategic Growth. Council, in front of you again is the proposal from Wichita State to approve a strategic planning process for the city. We had a presentation for you sometime in August, and you requested that the staff from PPMC the Public Policy and Management Center, be present to walk you through that proposal. So I want to introduce the staff, Sarah Gooding and Kathy Sexton, who are here to talk to you about the strategic plan and the process that they propose for you. We'll give you a little bit of background on Kathy. Kathy's 30 year of professional experience in public service include primary city and county management at Derby City Manager and assistant at Sedgwick County County Manager, as well as several years as a state of Kansas budget analyst and a recent 6-month stint as interim assistant city manager in Wichita. Her superpowers are in economic development, budgeting, and finance, and local government management. Her extensive volunteer leadership experience with nonprofits, Visit Wichita, Derby Community Foundation, Kansas Association of City and County Management, and the Wichita Business Coalition on Healthcare, among others, make her a natural go-to for strategic business planning, board development, executive coaching, and people management. We're really excited to have Kathy in this team. We talked to folks in the industry of city government. People value her opinions and her recommendations, and she's just a well thought of leader in this industry. So I'll let her take it away, and I'll send for questions once her presentation's over.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Y'all have had a fun night tonight. I'm not going to talk about buildings or anything, but I appreciate y'all having us here. My name's Kathy Sexton, and as Dave said, we've had a lot of experience in city and county management in our fair state over the years, and the past two years at WSU. And what we do at the Public Policy Management Center is we help cities, counties, and nonprofit organizations, mostly all over Kansas, occasionally another state, and we help them with strategic planning. We help them with program analysis and community surveys and lots of things. But what we have for you today is our experience that we want to share, and just be able to be here to answer your questions. We did watch your 45 minutes of video from your last meeting when you talked about this. So instead of going through all the proposal that I'm sure you all have read, I thought what I would do today is answer the questions y'all brought up last time. And also, I mean, you may have more, but we'll just jump in, right? So some of you talked about, like, why should we do strategic planning? What do we need to do this for? Is it the right time? Is it what Hutchinson needs? And I would just say that is your decision, and I would give you a little bit of guidance on that. Is what we typically find organizations try to do a plan like this. And as you know, we also propose this organizational assessment as a start-off. So starting internally and looking at, and then moving outward, okay? But the strategic planning part of it is all about aligning priorities. If I interviewed each one of you all individually, there would be some things I would hear the same from all of you, but there'd also be things I would hear different. So when we align priorities, we're hearing what the elected officials want, what the department heads think that are their priorities, what others think are the priorities, and then we get that all in the mix, right? In the mix means we narrow it down. A mentor of mine was John Devine out of Salina. He did strategic planning with cities for many, many years, and he turned 80 last year, and he said, Kathy, I can't do this anymore. You got to do some of this. So he sat me down and said, what's some things you learned over the years, John, over the decades that you helped cities with this? And he said the hardest thing is figuring out how to take all the many priorities. You know what I'm talking about, right? There's always something new that a city needs to do, and narrowing it down about what are we really going to do, right? What are we going to fund? What are we going to support? And make a plan so the staff knows exactly what the priority is. Priority is not going to change every time y'all have a meeting. And it's going to stay with it till we get it done. So aligning priorities is huge. Providing clear direction to the staff is huge. And you may think, well, I told that department head I wanted this, or I told the city manager I wanted that. Well, but there's 5 of you. And sometimes there's turnover on the city council, right? So what's important is that we get clear direction to the staff to where they get things done. I'll never forget my city engineer back when I was city manager of Derby for 16 years. I didn't do a lot. I didn't hire consultants a whole lot. But every time one of my staff came to me and said, hey, we need to update the park master plan, or hey, we need to update the comp plan or whatever, I would say, talk to me about how you're going to use this plan. Talk to me about how it's not going to sit on the shelf, because we're not going to pay for plans if they're just going to sit on the shelf. So my belief is that you should do this if you want to be clear about what Hutchinson is about for the next 3 to 5 years, what your priorities are, and be clear with the staff so everybody's on the same page. It can become a North Star for you. And what's the it? First of all, what you're paying for is a process of engagement, but then also what you're paying for is a plan, an actual document at the end that states, here's what we want to do. Yea, verily, we are the city council. We say this is it. And so that means the staff have their marching orders. It becomes a North Star, that guiding document that then can be tied to budget requests, tied to people who come to the podium during public forum and say, I want this and I want this. And you say, well, we went through a plan and this is our 3 to 5 years, and we'll put that on the list or put that in the parking lot, however you want to talk about that. But in that way, when you have a North Star guiding document, it might have a mission statement. It might have a very aspirational vision statement. It may have values that you want to articulate, because it's important in any organization, public or private these days, that everybody's clear on what our values are. Those kinds of statements and values and goals and strategies can help you determine what not to do. Right? I mean, you've already struggled with that a little bit tonight. Struggled in a good way. I don't mean that negatively. But I mean, there's always something that needs more money, that needs more attention, that needs staff time. Staff only have so much time. Figuring out what not to do can be very difficult, but critical in public sector these days. Also, the plan would help the employees connect. Help them connect with each other, understand this is not my silo, my department, that's not all I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for team thinking, team environment, and making that other guy, the other department head, responsible, not just my own department. You also ask a question of why third-party facilitation might be needed on something like this. And I would say that mostly because we do this a lot. We have experience. We've worked with a lot of cities, counties, nonprofit organizations. We understand and the process better than if you just say, well, staff, come up with a vision statement. Well, it's not really just the vision that you came up with. It's the process you used to get there, for example. We do think that a third-party facilitator can help you as individuals, you as a body, and the staff see beyond what they see now. Because you know, when you get paid every day to come in and do your job at the City of Hutchinson, you're focused on what's in front of you. This helps see beyond, open things up, think about what could be. Think about what could happen if you don't take action on certain things. And engagement. It is about engagement, because sometimes people aren't asked what they think, or they don't feel they're in a safe space to say what they think. So a third-party facilitator will usually get different responses, different answers than if Mayor, you were to ask the question, for example, of individual employees. You're going to get different answers than what I'm going to get. I do believe it's locked up. I don't know if there's someone at the IT desk or something that could advance the slides, but we're locked up.
We need to put that in our strategic plan.
Yeah, there you go. We need help with the slides.
There you go.
Thank you very much. We there? Oh, here we go. So yeah, I think you saw this diagram in the packet, and it just gives you an idea of, we start with where we are now. We do identify, with your help and assistance, everybody, it's a process of engagement, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the challenges, what the key trends are that are going to affect you. And we do bring that experience to the table, being able to prompt you on some of those. You're not just going to come up with those out of thin air, but we know what has been issues for maybe other cities, maybe legislative or other financial matters. So then we try to get to priority issues and then advance the direction of the planning process to where do we want to be? What's that idea for mission, vision, values, goals, objectives? All kinds of words, but we just hear what people are wanting, and then we kind of slot it into what's the right labels for those. And then we align and we talk about, okay, if that's what you want, what's it going to take to get there? A little tough love comes in there sometimes, because you can't have everything. That second step of all those many things everybody wants then has to be narrowed down through the funnel of what's realistic, I worked with the city last year. It was awesome. They had just updated their park master plan, and then they had just updated their comp plan. So the council approved both within a couple of months, and these thick documents, right? Each of them had like 3 or 4 pages at the very back. You know what it was? Literally hundreds of things that the plan said the city should do. Hundreds. Hundreds for the parks, hundreds for the comp plan. So the comp plan is more about development and growth. And so we did a retreat, we did a little pre-work, a little after work. We got that council to narrow that down to 40 items, okay? Then the staff really went in and said, well, to get this one done, we're gonna need to do this, and we need this, and we don't have that. And then we were able to like narrow it even further and actually make a plan to actually do something. So I am not a person in favor of plans sitting on shelf. I'm a person who says use the plan to create the alignment and the execution of how do we get these things done. So the evaluation of how we're doing, that is part of the process. Like the day we walk out the door after your plan is done is not, that's like the beginning. It's like day one, because then becomes implementation. Now you're talking about strategic management, not just the planning. How do we get this done? And how do you all as the governing body oversee the manager and his staff in terms of getting things done? How do we communicate back and forth? Well, council, if you want this one done, it's going to take this and this. Will you back us on that? Can we do that, or should we shift? So there's a lot of realistic, practical aspects of this. I am not really like a, what would you call a professor or anybody like that. I'm a practitioner. If we don't make Hutchinson better through this process, I have no reason to spend my time on it. I doubt you do either. So the another question you asked was about the comprehensive plan versus a strategic plan. Yeah, it's still, yeah, sorry. So a comp plan, you updated your comp plan probably like in 2017, I'm thinking, right? So I don't even know how much you all have been involved in your comprehensive planning. But generally speaking, a comp plan focuses, we need to focus resources to meet, to achieve meaningful objectives. So a comp plan is going to be working on your growth and development and infrastructure to get you there. So what we would recommend starting off, now I'm open to everything when we start, but if you have a comp plan from 2017, it's pretty new. I mean, it's not old, it's not dusty, but it's not brand new either. So we would look at that. We would look at any recent surveys you've done of the community. We would ask if we could look at that. We would analyze if you've got a park master plan update, if you've got a housing assessment, a downtown plan, anything you've already invested in the last 5 years or so would be what I would consider our starting point. We would then use those documents to form the questions for the interviews of you all, for the surveys of the employees, for the focus groups of the public, because we want to really drill down. We're not just going to ask, well, where do you want Hutchinson to be in 15 years? You know what I mean? It's going to be very specific. And then the whole idea would be to drill that down into the vision, mission, values. So as you know, the proposal we gave you all is 2 phases. First, starting internally with a staff survey. My belief, it's been a while since I've worked on this because we made this proposal about 1.5 years ago, but I believe there has not been a recent survey of all the employees. So that would be a critical component of the organizational assessment, as well as interviews of department heads, interviews of governing body members, and then a retreat, a workshop for the governing body with key staff to sift through where we're at and narrow it down. And then we would know, should we progress into strategic planning or should we take a smaller approach at that time? And last slide last slide. One of the questions that came up last time is something about some turnover expected in city council coming up, maybe the next election or something, and there's always turnover, right? So important to know that this is our bailiwick. Well, there's always turnover in every city, every county. We want to, and every new council has a right to do their thing, right? But if you start with something and it's solid, many times new council members, they would be oriented to the plan, come to understand the plan. Obviously, they don't have to accept it, but the way the planning process is done and the way the plan is written, it provides the basis for guidance North Star kind of stuff, understanding roles. And, but it is at the end, it's your plan. So if you have majority turnover at next election, obviously there needs to be some more readdressing the plan and the priority setting. You can tell sometimes elections are nothing about anything about what's in the plan. So some people may say, yep, that's fine, or no, I ran on this and I want to have my say. Well, of course, and as you all know, majority rules in the end. So, but it is your plan, and we would do everything we could to help you zero in on the priorities and make sure that that those are clear and that the plan would be implemented. We have a lot of tips and advice for you as elected, as well as for the staff as to how to implement the plan as well. So having said all that, I'm open to any questions you all might have.
How long is this process? And then how long basically between each step, I guess?
Yeah, great question. And a lot of it is on your timeline in terms of finding time to get things done. But the way we proposed this one was that there's a really short thing. So we would probably start in mid-October. Say we did, we could be done with phase 1 by February, and then phase 2 be done about June. Again, you might have other priorities and that might take longer for your needs, but generally if we start in mid-October, we could be done in June.
Any other questions?
No.
Need a motion and a second to approve this or not approve it?
City Manager, what are your thoughts in regards to adoption and active roles from your team in this process?
I appreciate the question, and I would say I'm fully supportive of this proposal and plan. And I would also encourage you all to, if you look in the audience, you'll see that almost all of our department heads are here. And we've had a lot of discussion on the strategic plan or the process to get a plan. And they stress to me that they're very hungry for that they do want that. That it is a guiding focus for us. And so as councils change, or perhaps as city managers change, I don't plan to go anywhere, but hopefully this plan stays. And so that will be the guiding focus for hopefully multiple generations. I mean, iterations need to happen just to change with the times, but I'm fully supportive of this proposal.
How does the strategic plan filter down to the different levels of leadership in regards to encouraging different departments to create their own strategic plan that meets the overarching?
Yeah, that is definitely one way you can do it, is have departments then make their plan. Another way is a kind of a variation on the theme that you've created, say 4 goals, and then under those are strategies and action steps and things to be done, very concrete, do this, do this. Well, our model is we give you a document, basically like a spreadsheet, that flows that out, that says quarter 1, 2, 3, 4 of the next 3 years, and builds out who's doing this, who's the champion, what's needed, how do we get you what's needed, what's the steps that are getting done each quarter, and that it builds in basically an automatic quarterly reporting system so you could see progress and learn about resource needs if progress isn't being made, that kind of thing. So one goal might be all about public works, and another goal might be all about tourism, or another goal might be out, whatever your goals are, it would filter down to very specific action steps, and every one of them has a champion. And they're not you, because you're the elected policy leaders. You're setting the plan. The staff are the ones who are going to have their names on there, and those would be tied then to their budget requests, their performance evaluations, their weekly plans, daily, monthly plans of what they spend their time on.
Well, Enrico, I was one of them that's really against this because I thought we could spend $50,000 in a better way. But I'm also a person that wants to educate our employees and make them go to school and stuff like that. What I'm hearing today is that we need this, educate our department heads and everything of this. So if anything we can do to get them going and get a better strategic plan, I think I've changed my mind. I think we do need this, and this money will be going to a good cause. So.
And it's always helpful to have in writing what the priorities are. And so that's also key to this as well for all of us.
Well, if you need a proposal, I would be the one to propose that we go with this. And is that what you need?
That's.
And ignore that phone, that's mine, it's in my bag.
No, are you making a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, 1 second. Is there anybody from the audience that has anything to say about this item? I'll be sure that I let people speak. All right, call the roll, please.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Megers?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Next item, please.
Item 7E, consider IMS pavement management study, project 23-12.
Good evening. Justin Karam, Construction Manager, Engineering Department. So tonight, engineering is pleased to highlight the latest findings from our pavement management study led by Infrastructure Management Services. The city is responsible for maintaining 266 centerline miles of roadways, one of our most significant assets. Using advanced technologies, IMS has provided engineering with a detailed assessment of our road network current condition. The study revealed that while our pavement condition index, or referred to as PCI, has slightly improved since our last update in 2019 to an average score of 67, maintaining a good rating. We still face challenges with 3% of our roads classified as poor or very poor. This critical data enables engineering to prioritize our maintenance activities more efficiently for our roadway construction projects and our annual arterial and residential maintenance projects. The program goal is to sustain our PCI above 65 and keep our backlog below 10%. I'd like to introduce Kayla Grubb with IMS, who will be virtually presenting an overview of the pavement management study. This presentation will touch on the pavement management process, pavement life cycle, common pavement issues, define the pavement condition index, and to provide key results of the study. I want to start by apologizing to Kayla. I told her maybe a 45-minute wait. It's been a little bit longer than that. So, Kayla, I'll let you take over.
I just want to make sure if I have control of the screen. Or you can feel free to do it for me if it's easier.
Untested technology. You got control, Kayla?
I'm not sure. I don't see anywhere to hit the next slide, like an arrow. But if you want to flip through, I'm good with that.
Got that?
Yeah. Just give me a heads up if you want to go next slide.
Yeah. Well, I'll just jump right in. I know you guys have been going through a lot tonight, so I'll try to be as concise as possible. But yes, I'm Kayla Grubb, representing ICT, IMS. We did the pavement condition survey for the city. I'm just going to start and do a really brief kind of background on pavement management, the process, our survey, the technology that we use, and just show you some representative pavement conditions, both some photos of your streets. I hope no one lives on any of the streets. And then just a brief overview of the overall conditions and the analysis that we completed. And we can flip a couple. Yeah, and I really won't spend too much time, honestly, on this slide. I just wanted to share kind of a typical pavement section that is pretty much standard anywhere. There's a subgrade and a subbase course, and then it's kind of layered with multiple different types of asphalt layers, with the surface course being your top layer. This is what we drive on. And if you'll flip over next, this just kind of gives, I think, a better cutout of the pavement there. You can kind of see the subbase, the base course, and then the surface course on top. The base course is extremely important. It's kind of like the foundation, if you will, for a house. This is what's really handling all of the loads, the weight of the vehicles, the traffic loads that are going on the roadway. And for the city, we did do the pavement condition survey. So we scanned the top of the pavements for distresses and the types of distress, their severity. We also did FWD, that's falling weight deflectometer, structural testing, and that helps us identify the structural integrity underneath the surface level of the pavement. So if you can see there in the subbase or your base course, if there were any voids in there or anything that could maybe fall through, water could get in, that could lead to something like a pothole. And so what we did with the FWD is it's on a truck with a trailer attached, and it drives the roadway, and it drops these weights very rapidly, and we can measure the deflection of the pavement without doing anything destructive. And that's how we kind of determine the structural integrity kind of underneath the underlying more than the surface. And if you want to flip through this one, so why are we doing this? We scan the pavements, and we're collecting data, and we want to give this data over so that it can be utilized for states, cities, counties, anyone that owns roadway, so that you can utilize the data and help you better prioritize and plan your maintenance projects or your paving projects. It is meant to be a tool for you to run different scenarios, whether they're analyzing your budget and you're trying to see how much higher you can raise your scores within a certain budget, or maybe you want to analyze your backlog first, and you want to get those worst streets done and raise those up. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the data, but the purpose is having an objective and repeatable way across the board that is an industry standard, so that we have a quantifiable way of measuring and grading our pavements, if you will. And we could flip through. Yes. So this slide just shows a really good representation, I think, of the purpose of why we are doing this. The industry over the years has moved away from worst roads first, and instead we've went into pavement preservation practices. And we know that after the first 40% of a pavement's life, it's going to deteriorate, and the condition is going to drop by about 15%. When we reach that threshold is when your pavement life doesn't have to extend very much longer, but your pavement conditions are going to drop very drastically. So the idea of pavement preservation and the purpose of our analysis, which is a cost of deferral analysis, we're analyzing the cost if you were to defer maintenance after a certain point of pavement's life, and then the cost of that a deferral for having to bring up your pavement scores. And you could switch me. So here is just another similar slide, but it is showing kind of the target zones for your pavement preservation. So the idea being, if you are applying a routine maintenance and repair or a preventative maintenance type of work plan, then if you catch your pavement while it's still in good condition, then you can keep your pavement in good condition for longer. If the pavement life were to extend further before we started looking at rehab or repaving plans, then you're going to spend more money. It's going to be less cost effective for those types of repairs because you have further to go on the graph to get your pavement scores back to where they need to be. So the whole idea is just keeping your good roads in good condition the best we can. So this here just shows some of the distresses that we were able to collect and analyze. I don't even think this is all of them. This is just some of them. There's various types of distresses. Each type can have a different severity, and each type can have a different quantity. So you might see alligator cracking, but it might be in one specific area, whereas on another street you may see alligator cracking, for example, across the whole street. And so this is how the technology that we are using to collect your pavement distresses. We use something called a laser crack measuring system, or LCMS, and the LCMS technology is the highest resolution 3D pavement imaging system that is on the market today. This is the level of technology that DOTs are required to use. Of course, at the state level and anything with federal funding especially, they're required to have a survey done annually using this technology. On the municipal and county, local government level, it is not a requirement yet. However, we know now, of course, with the industry being how it is good to start surveying your pavement and getting a plan down. We have industry standards now that we are able to quantify these across the board, and this helps keep us all in a good standard. But the LCMS, you can see how it will analyze where the cracks are, not just this where it's not mistaking cracks that are sealed. It tells you which ones are sealed, and then if we come across any holes or things that may look like a hole, it does identify whether it is a utility or a manhole cover rather than just a pothole. So it is the most accurate piece of technology that is out there, and we do utilize an AI component. We do say that we are semi automated because it is automated. We drive the road normal speeds. The AI component post-processing does the first pass, if you will. That is followed up by our data analysts and our engineers just to QC that data and make sure it's accurate and that what it has first analyzes is actually true. So some of the things that we are measuring and that go into the overall pavement condition index, or the PCI score. One is the surface distresses. So that is what we are picking up with the LCMS technology, all the different types of cracks or distresses and those levels of severity. Those get rated based on other parameters that are defined by industry standards. Those are rated from 0 to 100. And the other thing that we do at IMS is we take into account the International Roughness Index, or the IRI score. This is measured with a profiler, a piece of technology that's on the front of the vehicle. And this is really telling us the ride quality of your road, or the smoothness of it. Sometimes after a pavement project, maybe a contractor has to get a rideability score to make sure that, that it is smooth enough. So what we do for our total PCI score is we combine the surface distress index as well as the smoothness of your streets. And actually, for the city's case, we actually included the structural index as well, because we did do structural testing. So in your case, it would actually be the surface distresses, the rideability, and the structural testing. So you have a very comprehensive score, which is really great to see. You've seen this scale on several slides. It's a good color representation and of where your PCIs your pavement condition index may fall. Of course, 100 is being excellent. This is going to be maybe a street that you've just paved. And then anything that's below a PCI of 40, that's where we're getting into projects or streets that may need something a little bit more robust. You may have to do a full depth reclamation, something maybe not a mill and overlay. It may just require a little bit more funds and activity to repair that road or replace it. So we've got a photo in here of each class or each grade, and just to kind of give you a visual representation. So this street here on East 6th Avenue did have a PCI of 17. You can see alligator cracking throughout. You can see some potholes. Definitely this was going to be a rougher ride. So this is why this is going to have a very poor rating. It definitely seems like a residential kind of road, and you'd rather a very poor road be on a residential road than a major, a heavily trafficked and traveled road. And we're just moving up the list here. This one was classified as poor. It's a PCI of 33. So you can see it's not quite as bad. There is some alligator cracking, and you can also see it runs throughout the length of the roadway there. So those are going to be some indicators that this one's going to have a little bit of a lower score. So midways here, this one and the next slide are pretty similar. This one is the marginal for a PCI 45. You've got some longitudinal and traverse cracking. Those are your major distresses. Sometimes on some of the streets, if they've already had work done, maybe they've been crack sealed. And I think the next photo may show that. That is taken into account with the scores. So if there has been something like that done already, then those are going to have a higher score. For example, this one here, you can see that there has been crack sealing done. That is a great thing. Water's not getting into that pavement anymore. But it does still have a fair rating, 56 PCI. You can see some major or some minor block cracking, but they are throughout the duration of the road or the length of the road. So that's why this one is probably classified as the major distress. And then here we are at the good. Looking a lot better here. There's even been some crack sealing done, but I mean, you can tell just by looking at it, there is a lot less distresses throughout the road. Definitely, I would imagine this has been paved relatively recently within the past few years. And so this one has a good PCI. And then the very good, so same thing here. It does have some transverse cracking on this section of East 17th Avenue, but those transverse cracks have been sealed. And so the overall score for the street is looking pretty good at a 75. And you can tell this has been newly repaved, I would say recently, on Nickerson Boulevard. So this one definitely is an excellent PCI. It's 93. From just the photo alone, I can't even detect a distress just with my eyes. But so that's kind of a good scale and of a photo representation of some of your streets. So just a high level overview overall, really looking pretty good. You do have the average condition score of 67. That is pretty good. The backlog of 2.8, that's actually really good. There is not a industry standard. There's not any national or official standard for this. But what we have seen amongst our clients in the United States and Canada over several years, you really want your backlog to be lower than 10%. Anything that's higher than a 10%, you get into you're just going to be really focusing on all of your worst roads and getting those back up to where they need to be instead of maybe focusing on preservation methods and keeping your good roads good. So if your backlog is lower and yours is, then you can manage your maintenance plan and your paving plans maybe to maybe do more of the preventative stuff and take a more proactive approach. And so, yes, we did do 2 analyses for the city. One was for the residential streets and the other was for the arterials and collectors, or your major roadways. Maybe there's 4 lanes or more trafficked areas. So for the residential streets, the current network average is 64 with a backlog of 4.3. The backlog is higher overall for the residential streets than the arterials and collectors. And I would say that's pretty standard across the board. And then the arterial and collector streets, a low backlog, which is great, and an average condition score of 70. Most of the roads were in the good or greater, which is awesome. A few of the roads that were very poor condition, but I mean, just looking at the graphs on the colors, it's looks like you've been doing a pretty good job. Keep taking care of your roadways. And so this is just a visual of the distribution of the functional classes of your streets. The majority of your roads are residential, and then you've got about 36% that are major roads. So after we've collected the data and we've processed the data, we've input this into our Easy Street analysis tool for 2 separate times. We did one for residential and one for the arterials and collectors. What this is showing you, and this is our cost of deferral analysis. And what this is modeling is your budget. The scenario this is modeling, if you look at, let's just go with the red line here. That's the steady state PCI line. So this is saying that you currently have a PCI score of 64 for your residential streets. If you were, it's kind of an if then, if you were to raise your budget to $7 million a year for 5 years, what you would see is your PCI scores would maintain. They wouldn't drop. Your backlog would go up. And then that's what some of these different scenarios are. If you wanted to keep your budget lower, the model for that is saying on an average annual budget of $1.6 million a year, your backlog is going to increase over 5 years to 17%. And your PCI over those 5 years will drop to 54, maintaining an average budget of $1.6 million a year. So these are just modeling different scenarios, and they're all customizable for the city based on what we are inputting. This one here is for the arterial and your collector streets. And it's the same thing as far as the model goes. If you wanted to look at your steady state line, your red line there, this would get your backlog. This would actually, I guess, raise your backlog to 4%, but it would be maintaining your PCI of 70 with an annual budget of about $3.2 million. If you had an average annual budget over 5 years of 1.74, then what you would see is your PCI scores would drop down, and your backlog would go up a little. And so that was a very brief way, high-level overview of our survey methodology. And ultimately the analysis we do, turn over, we provide training on the Easy Street analysis tool so that the engineering department or city staff can utilize this and manipulate it over the next few years and maintain that data so that you can then prioritize or plan for your projects better in an objective way. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Based on the data, I would say you have a pretty good maintenance plan.
Richardson?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Real quick, got a question for you. Can you stand back up there? Our brick streets in my territory, what's the deal with them? We have a plan to get them back up, or what's up?
That's something that's on our radar. We currently have a certain amount of funding per year to start addressing some brick issues. But it's kind of similar like our bridge fund. We get a certain amount per year, and then it's not a huge amount. So once we get enough to say go in and redo a street, then that's when we'll do it. It's definitely a deficiency that we're working to identify what's the best process. I think it's going to have a lot of public input. Obviously the easiest route is to fix the base and then pave over top. But we have historical streets. We have people that really like the brick, but the cost of keeping those or getting those back up to the standard that people expect, it's just costly, and there's not a lot of contractors that would do that for a price that we could probably afford. But that's something we're definitely going to push forward to, because we do need to address these issues, and we're working towards that.
Would you say that they got a lot of base problems because the bricks fall? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you would go in with any type of maintenance, you would address any base problems, and then if we did choose to do asphalt, you want to do any work beneath first. So.
Okay.
Councilmember Garza, I would add that one consideration could be that if there were street cuts for any reason in the brick streets, that an alternative to that could be to go back with stamped concrete for those patches, because that is something that theoretically we could do in-house, and laying the brick is fairly labor and time intensive.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. Next item, please.
Item 8, oral communications from the audience.
This is the time for public comment. Please keep it to 5 minutes, and state your name and where you live, and be happy to listen.
Council, Mayor, my name is Don Rogers. I am the owner of Wells Aircraft out at the airport, which I think most of you know. I come before you tonight for several reasons, but the 3 questions that I asked, I've been in meetings since 4 o'clock with the Airport Advisory Committee, but I'm getting a lot of calls about the 24-hour fuel system that you folks bought. Sometime 3 or 4 months ago, I was told you paid $75,000 for the system. It wasn't inspected before it was put in to payment from the city. We, to this day, can't get it operational because of leaks in the system, outdated hose lengths, and equipment with the system that's not working. So I would just say, be careful when we look at what that system is going to cost us to get it operational, and we're still waiting. IT took 2 months to get us internet service to it, so I think they need some staffing help. We say we want to go ahead and put the listings from the newspaper online. They're going to need some staffing to do that, and they're going to need some staffing to keep it up. If you look at the website now, we have no minutes from the Airport Advisory Committee for 2024 listed. Some of your positions, that they're going to need the revenue that you're saving, John, in not posted on the paper. You're going to need to put that back into city staff when they do it. So the system I asked was, how did we approve this without some of the things that went through to spend $75,000? Did we consider an inspection before we bought it? And now we're waiting almost going on the 4th month of it not operational. That's not acceptable. And I'm getting the calls for it not working, and we got NOTAMs out for all the pilots that there's no 24-hour fuel system on the field. So cart before the horse, we missed some. And since I got to sit through the meeting, I just want to make a comment about the atrium. As the city has struggled for this for years, I've been 14 years with Kraus Plow as an executive in the city, 12 years with Stoops and Refuse, and negotiated 2 contracts with the city on the recycling and trash services, 18 years of owning wells. So I have some history in the city. But it has to be somewhat compassionate to the individuals that have sat through 4 managers in less than 2 years. I've sat through 6 managers since I've been in the community, but only the last 3 of 4 years or 3 years have we gone through so many. So We have new staff, we have new councils, I get that. But just be considerate and mindful of that when you're dealing, that were the things communicated well? I would say I've communicated well some of the issues that we have at the hangars that we rent from the city to a tune of $8,000 a month that I pay the city. I've got mold, I've got windows that don't work, I have doors that don't work, and if we weren't in the building, we'd probably have the same vandalism issues that the atrium has had. So no, it's all a budget issue, and I get that we only have so much money in the city, and we only can spread it so far, and that's why we've been very patient and waiting for the things for the airport. But be mindful, it's all budget driven. And we don't have it in the city budget. It appears that he doesn't have it in his budget either. And I can be compassionate to that. And I think you all were tonight with him, but just understand that his side of what he's had to put up with for the last few years. And finally, I'd like to say, emails don't cut it. I'm old school, face to face. You want to know something? Come see me. I think we hide behind text messages, we hide behind communications that are, in an email, and then we say, I sent you an email. Well, did we see the email sometimes? So I would say the best communication is face to face, whether it was with him, with the atrium, or with us as Wells. Come see us. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. I will look into your questions and concerns. Thank you. Anybody else this evening like to speak?
Airport Director Alex Day. I understand your frustrations, Don. I guess he left. I wanted to address a few things. It did take quite a while to basically go through the process of purchasing that self-serve tank. Upon that purchase, we went through the process of doing an inspection with it. We called out a company that's had a pretty good track record, and they did an initial functions test. We've replaced the hose based off of their request, and unfortunately we did spring a leak last week in a cabinet that's relatively hidden. But luckily he has a great operations supervisor that caught that. As far as the IT comment, that's not very accurate. I did some research as to how we were going to get internet out there and contemplated whether or not that would be a cell phone dialer, or if we were going to do a hard line, or if we were going to beam through a wireless method. Once we determined what method we were going to use, then I came to IT and consulted with them, and they did that in a relatively timely manner. It's all a process. I understand he's frustrated because he's getting phone calls about it, but we are getting there.
Very good. And to the point about how did we pay for this, we pulled it out of the budget that we had several $100,000 budgeted for airport improvements. It came out of that to try to encourage more.
Correct. Yeah. How it initially came up was the owners were looking to get out of the business. They were going to put it up for auction. We did not have the first right of refusal on it. They approached us and asked us if we would like to purchase it before they sent it to auction. We researched, found that somewhere in the $70,000 range was appropriate. We made our offer, and we had a small bit of negotiation and did settle on $75,000. That is a very good deal, a brand new unit. Without a pad installed, the electrical or the internet would have cost $175,000. So we kind of viewed the purchase as maintaining an amenity for the airport. It wasn't a purchase that we were required to do. This was something that we chose to do for the airport and for the tenants of the airport.
Well, and I appreciate your work on that, because we're just trying to increase operations. We're trying to have a low-cost fuel option for folks that fly in, and I think we will accomplish those. Hopefully this little setback isn't a big deal.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else, John? All right, thank you.
Appreciate your words. Anybody else would like to address the council? All right. Moving forward, Steve?
Okay. On a really kind of a funny little note, you know my wife comes here all the time. She supports me 120%. But today she came up to me here before she left. She says, I don't know where this was going, but I was getting scared a little bit. And she said, I'm going to leave. First thing come to my mind, you want to leave me here? So anyway, other than that, I will have a meeting, meeting in my area the 25th, 28th at 9 o'clock at the zone. Get our zone meetings going again.
The 25th or the 28th?
28th, sir.
28th, okay.
28th. I think that this night meetings are good. I have everybody here, even though they're mostly employees. I thank people for coming out for this. I think it's great. But I think we're doing fine. The city is, I've been on this council a long time, and the city has come a long ways. And I think we're gonna go a lot more. That's all I got, sir.
You're not gonna mention the Southwest Bricktown?
Oh, yeah, Southwest
Fiesta?
Bricktown, oh, yeah, I'm tired. Okay.
Well, I can mention it because it's in my district. So.
Southwest Bricktown is going to have a big dance, Hispanic dance. You know, I love it, and I'll be there. And so try to come out there to see it. I forget the band's name. You know the name?
I don't remember it.
And
I couldn't pronounce it if I did know it.
You want me to? Yeah, right.
Sorry.
That's all right. You guys, I sit up here thinking about things, and you're my friends. The citizens are my friends, and that's how I talk. The reason I don't read you hear me start reading a little bit more on the motions is because I don't like to read in front of people. I've always been that way. So I'm getting more encouraged. This is my 6th year on this council. I'm starting to get a little bit more braver, you know. So I've seen that today. So that's all, sir.
Appreciate your work, Steve. John, you're next.
Well, I don't like to dance in front of people like you do. This is probably the longest meeting we've been a part of that I can remember. I appreciate everyone's patience. And the only thing I'm going to say is Friday the 20th, this Friday, is the United Rebel Sprint Series races at the track at the fairgrounds. So I would encourage everyone to go if you can. That's all I got.
Very good. Scott?
Steve, I'm tired too, but it's worth it to see all these people show up
Yep.
to participate. So I just want to touch on Panorama. We've got our temporary traffic circles in. I've got a lot of positive feedback, a lot of emails. However, I just got an email a little while ago that now on Panorama, they're using the inside lane to go north instead of going around the outside. So, of course, we create a solution and then another problem pops up. So, I'm sure we can figure out a way to address that. And then the North Elm Street, north of 30th, right there, we're having some of the same traffic issues with speeding going there, right there by Genesis, going north there. Speeds of over 60 miles an hour going up that street.
Wow.
So I've talked to Enrico about that, kind of looked into that too. And I want to thank Mr. Chief Beer for stepping in the other day and in my place and milking some goats. So
I'm sure he'll address how he was persuaded to step into your place, but do you have any more?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Real quick, Mr. Mager, I did get people call me today on the roundabouts, so I went out there and drove it myself before I came, and I think it looks good. Did a good job. I had to tell them it's to slow cars down, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I did have some people, 3 of them called me and tell me they didn't like it, but they didn't live in that neighborhood. They were going through there to see other people. So I told them you had a night meetings and all that was taken care of, but you have my approval. I did like it.
Well, we're working on it, so it's a work in progress.
Yes.
Well, I've got a couple things. First of all, I want to apologize to Rod Zook. He was a gentleman that wanted to speak. I I'm not sure if we should change when we have public comments or not, but these were the agreed upon rules from the get-go, and I'm sorry it took so long, and if I sounded harsh or abrupt, I was just trying to stay on task, and certainly would visit with him at any time. The Southwest Bricktown Fiesta, I will not be dancing, but I will be there. And I appreciate as well Chief Beer stepping in. Are your officers here? Okay. Okay. Enrico, you're next.
All right.
And while he's taking the mic, I apologize to those that are here to receive an award also.
Is this the right date anymore?
Well, I'm getting hungry. So anyway, Enrico, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. One of the great privileges that I have as a leader in the organization is to recognize our employees' contributions. And one way to do that is certainly publicly, but in another way too is to show that investing our employees is important. And so their supervisors are here, so I don't want to speak for them, but I'm certainly very supportive of this, and I love to see our investment in our employees. So I will turn this over to Carla first.
Mayor, Council, I'm Carla Pierce. I'm the Interim Director of Utilities, and I would like to give you a little background on the Industrial Pretreatment Program tonight and share some awards that they've earned this year. If I have any industrial representatives still here, I would welcome you up. I'm not sure if they were able to stick around or not.
There's several still here. Come on up, folks, if you're here for that. No?
Okay. According to federal regulations, the City of Hutchinson is required to administer an industrial pretreatment program based on our wastewater treatment facility design flow and the industrial base that's connected to our sewers. The basis for those regulations is to prevent pollutants from interfering with the treatment and disposal processes, to prevent introduction of pollutants which can pass through our treatment system and end up in the river, and to improve opportunities to recycle and reclaim municipal and industrial wastewaters. We've been permitting industries for the pre-treatment program since 1984. Currently, we have 5 permitted significant industrial users. EPA requires certain industries to be included in this program. They have EPA-defined discharge limits for metals and other pollutants, and they're also subject to the city's local limits and sewer use ordinance. Other permitted industries are chosen based on their flow to the wastewater plant, the strength of their discharge, or their potential to disrupt the wastewater treatment facility. These non-categorical SIUs are subject only to local limits and the sewer ordinance. Wastewater staff sample and analyze industrial discharges from our permitted industries every month. Each industry is inspected annually by the pretreatment coordinator to ensure compliance with their permit and with their spill control plans. The Kansas Water Environment Association, KWEA, is a nonprofit technical educational organization and is the member association of the Water Environment Federation. The goal of this organization is to preserve and enhance the quality of water throughout the state of Kansas and consists of wastewater professionals, engineers, and scientists who work hard to give us the best quality water possible. Each year, the KWEA recognizes those industries which demonstrate consistent compliance with their discharge permit. To qualify for a gold award, the industry must demonstrate achievement of all 4 of the following categories with a 95 to 100% compliance with all their discharge requirements, exhibit a good working relationship with their local pretreatment coordinator, be proficient in report submittal requirements, and show exemplary environmental stewardship. In 2023, the city had all 5 permitted industries receive a gold award from the KWEA. That would include the Dillon Stores DC Complex, Kuhn Krause Inc., Lowen Corporation 14th Street location, Lowen Corporation Airport Road, and Tyson Prepared Foods Winchester Division. We have those awards to present to those facilities, which I guess we'll provide in person.
Okay, very good.
All right. I would like to invite Cecil up.
Evening, Council. Cecil Weibel, I'm the Interim Director of Public Works. This gentleman with me is Rick. He is one of our mechanics in the Central Garage, and he also spends most of his time not just working on some city vehicles, but also a lot of the time for Chief Beer working on the fire equipment. And he has recently achieved a stat that not many in the country have, and he's working toward getting his master's, but he is a certified EVT technician now. So he can work on all of our apparatus for the fire department and keeps them up and running. So I'll let Chief talk about it a little bit as well.
Chief Beer, Hutch Fire. Yeah, Rick is one of them guys, you know, my department, we get a lot of press on the TV, on the newspaper, on the radio and stuff like that. A guy like Rick is a guy, the unsung heroes behind the scenes that keep us on the road 365 days a year. What he does and what he's been able to do is to save the city hundreds of thousands of dollars, in my opinion, because we now have, we're proactive on our maintenance. We're doing maintenance checks that we've never done in the past, and it's extending the longevity of our equipment. And so just having somebody with that skill set is priceless in our world here. So again, thank you, Rick, for all that you do each and every day, and we appreciate it.
I will say, I met with Chief Beer during the mattress fire about, 8 a.m., and I looked over there and there was a truck that had a little bit of a problem. I believe you were under that truck fixing that problem at 8 a.m. on scene at a fire, so thank you.
And I would close with that Rick helps make normal happen. And so in all the interactions that I've had with Rick, he does take great pride in his work. And so I definitely was very excited to recognize his achievement with this. So.
Very good. Thank you all. Chief, would you like to talk about the goat milking and who won that?
Well, just for the record, Scott, that basically I was given an ultimatum whether to milk the goat or get fired. So I took milking the goat, but then when we took on my guys, I got paid $500 to knock the bucket of milk over. No, that was a joke. So it was a good time.
Yeah, Hutchinson Fire Department won that, and there was, I don't know, eight teams or so, but maybe 10. Anyway, it was a good time.
Yeah. And then finally, we would also like to recognize Kevin, our Director of 911. So I won't want to spoil it, but Kevin does not know that we were going to do this. So this is kind of a surprise. But he was nominated for and then won Director of the Year for the work that he does. And so I'll let Stacy speak on that. But I would also think it's equally as important to state that it was his staff that recommended this for him. And so I think that speaks volumes for his leadership. He has completely turned around a department, especially in my short time here, on hearing a lot of the praise from his employees and just his leadership style and his demeanor and his work. And so I'll turn it over to Stacy for more.
Hi, Stacey Eves, Assistant Director for Hutchinson Reno County Emergency Communications. So this nomination actually comes from APCO, our Association of Public Safety Communications Officials. So nominees were submitted throughout the whole state, and so he is actually the winner for the entire state of Kansas. So this is just kind of a little excerpt from our nomination here. So as director, Kevin is responsible for all aspects of the department, from creating the budget, finding sources of revenue, implementation of equipment, and overall operations of the center. Kevin has been with our agency for 1.5 years, but has over 30 years of public safety experience. Kevin has been integral in building relationships between public safety agencies and our community. Decisions made for the agency are done in partnership and consideration of stakeholders involved. He is highly engaged in tasks and projects not to micromanage, but to contribute his knowledge and expertise. He encourages interactions and learning so we can improve in serving each other in the community.
Kevin has spent a great deal of time tracking down the why behind agreements and procedures, and then worked to make formal processes that meet or exceed national standards. In the midst of all his responsibilities, Kevin still makes time to sit in the center and have one-on-one scenario sessions with employees to help them understand policy and protocols. Kevin takes most all the same training that is assigned to staff so that he may understand the work as they do. As a previous paramedic, he is constantly reminding everyone that dispatchers save lives. Kevin openly shares statistical information with staff to praise their successes and to motivate improvement. Kevin is eager to engage the families of our employees so they may better understand what their loved one experiences each day. He has an unwavering support of performance, health, and wellness of staff. Kevin has also been keeping involved with the legislature that impacts 911. Kevin remains connected with our representatives, the 911 Coordinating Council, and surrounding 911 centers to understand how changes will affect our agency and fellow agencies in the state. This year, our center has set goals that have been shared with our staff and posted all around the center. Goals developed were not only centered around our agency performance, but including building partnerships with responder agencies and increasing involvement with our community. Everyone that works for the agency is important to reaching our goals. And we are reaching our goals in part because of all the changes that have occurred and the positive and inclusive culture that is promoted. I don't have time to mention all the change that has occurred, but a lot of times change in 911 can be scary. We get used to something, and so we resist change. But our director has skillfully and thoughtfully promoted change in our center and our community. He is continually looking for ways to create positive forward motion. Kevin has helped us make big changes in processes that were met with some resistance along the way, but through meaningful conversations with staff and stakeholders, Kevin has eased tension and increased support. As the assistant director for the agency, Kevin has been an invaluable mentor. Because of his philosophy of inclusion, I have learned more about our agency and our city in the past year than I have in the 2 years combined of my position. Kevin's ideas for change over the next several years are the heart of our agency's vision, which is to be the best emergency communications center, respected and trusted for our actions and services provided. Kevin's position as director gives him the authority to make many changes, but it is through his leadership that real change is being made. Thank you, Kevin, for your ideas, knowledge, positivity, and passion that you have brought to the Communications Center and the city.
Well, thank you. I don't know what to say because I didn't have anything prepared, but I got a great team down there. I got the best assistant director in the state. It's an honor. It's an honor to work here. It's an honor to provide the services that we do and to work with the leadership team that we have here. We got a lot more to do, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your work. Switch executive sessions.
Let me do this one first. That way this one ends at AM, like I said.
Well, yeah, it's already in there, so yeah. All right, we have 2 executive sessions tonight.
Council, in the interest of time,
Oh.
let's just go to number 11 on the executive session, and we'll take care of the first one another time.
Okay, well, I made that decision already, so thanks for agreeing with me. I need a motion. How long will it take?
15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes, all right.
I moved to recess until 9:20.
Second.
Richardson,
Or it go to executive session. Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Biggers.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Run, flee.
Thank you, guys.
Enrico, I don't know.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Enrico, I'm not sure.
This is
If
why